Chapter 16:11. Everyone in the night raid bowed their heads when they heard the words. Although it was normal for assassins to leave, sometimes it was inevitable for everyone to be sad. Just like the current scene, although the time they spent with Dustless was very short and rushed, everyone could not help but feel sad for a while. That guy is very popular. Tatsumi looked around. He didn't feel much. First, he only knew Dustless for a few days. Second, he had a long history of grievances with Dustless, especially Dustless often deliberately retaliated against Tatsumi. The relationship between the two was extremely bad. Did you encounter his death? Boss Najinda spat out an eye circle, was silent for a few seconds, and immediately said, I know his death is means. Dustless may not be able to save his life. That woman, all the members of the night raid were silent. All of them together may not be the opponent of his death. His death was also one of the most feared figures in the night raid. Who? After 3 minutes of silence, we will talk about other questions. Before Najinda's voice fell, it was disrupted by a very discordant voice. Silence? Who do you mourn for? Could be that Tatsumi is dead? Then God really opened his eyes this time. The serious atmosphere was destroyed by this funny voice. Everyone was stunned and immediately rushed to the source. Dustless, who was full of expectations, suddenly appeared in front of them. It's a pity that Tatsumi is not dead. Looking at Tatsumi, who is injured but full of spirit, Dustless's face flashed a deep sadness. Hey, do you know how to talk? You are dead. Tatsumi stared at Dustless unkindly. This guy can't speak at all. Dustless, Leonine, and Akame smiled happily, and their desperate faces were excited. The two attacked from the front and back, and Dustless was tightly surrounded. Cough, cough, cough. Who are you mourning? Seeing everyone's resurrected face, Dustless was extremely speechless. Should it be me? His death is the strongest sadist general of the Empire. Those who are targeted by her are all fleeing. I even prepared your funeral. Looking straight at Dustless, Najinda said bluntly, It's a pity this time that guy didn't kill me. And my luck is pretty good. I have escaped from his death twice. Glancing at Najinda, Dustless rolled his eyes. No injury? Bullet asked, staring at Dustless as if he saw a monster. It was a miracle for ordinary people to escape from his death, but Dustless was intact. Let me see. Others just looked left and right, but Akame took off Dustless's clothes in a very strange way. If he didn't react quickly, maybe his shorts would be taken off by this guy. I expected his death to come back early, but why did she come back without stopping? Najinda was puzzled and said to herself, It took several days to return to the capital, but his death came back in less than half a day. She scratched her head and couldn't understand why his death was so anxious. Cough, cough, cough. Maybe it's because of me. When I didn't join the night raid, that guy suffered some losses in my hands. Maybe she's anxious to retaliate against me. Dustless shrugged helplessly. His death belonged to the best example of a person who went for wool and came back shorn. But Najinda nodded slightly and immediately nodded. Dustless and Tatsumi's level of being assassins still needs to be improved. You two learned from Akame yesterday, and you'll follow mine tomorrow. Mine. Dustless and Tatsumi both frowned and looked at the pink-haired girl with double ponytails at the same time. This is the boss's decision. Do you two have any dissatisfaction? Mine raised her head proudly and put her hands on her waist. Of course, Tatsumi was more anxious than Dustless and complained loudly. I seriously protest against this guy. Mine is the kind of person who uses public office to avenge private grudges. As in the original work, Tatsumi, who just joined the night raid, did not get along well with mine. They often ridiculed each other, and the two sides were even full of gunpowder. Idiot! Glancing at Tatsumi faintly, Dustless decisively chose to be silent. He knew that after a while, Tatsumi would be unlucky. Leone. Najinda glanced at Leone, and then pointed to Tatsumi. I see. Leone nodded. She clenched her fists, and suddenly there was a crackling sound. She immediately rushed to Tatsumi without hesitation. Bang, bang, bang. 2 ruthless punches fell. Tatsumi's head suddenly had a bunch of red bumps. Haven't you figured it out yet? If it weren't for Dustless, you would have been killed this time. Learn from mine. Najinda ordered seriously. Although mine was unreliable, she also defeated Tatsumi, who was a newcomer. As for involving Dustless, it was to deliberately attack Tatsumi, hoping that this guy would be brave after knowing the shame. Although Najinda was well-intentioned, Tatsumi did not have such a long-term vision. He was full of malice to mine. There was no way. Dustless invaded the world. Although he changed a lot of things, some things still could not be changed. For example, the relationship between mine and Tatsumi was not harmonious as in the original work, and it was even worse now. I have serious doubts about the ability of this guy. Glancing at Tatsumi, mine swung her ponytail and snorted. I know it by looking at his face. You look like a loser. You. Tatsumi stared at mine with fire. He rolled up his sleeves. If it were not because of many people, he really wanted to fight with mine. As for you, her sight fell on Dustless. Mine's strange sight made Dustless's face change slightly. He always felt that this weird girl was deliberately attacking him. Chapter 16:12. I should not be as bad as Tatsumi. Pointing to Tatsumi, Dustless asked directly regardless of Tatsumi's bitter face. You are indeed much better than him, and you are more trustworthy. Mine just nodded slightly when she heard the words, and she didn't care about Tatsumi's green face. Poor Tatsumi. A group of Knight raid members heard the words and stared at Tatsumi with pity. It was not that he couldn't do it, or he was too bad. On the contrary, Tatsumi was very hard-working and enterprising. This was also the reason why Bullet valued him. But his competitor, Dustless, was too heaven-defying. In the final analysis, it was not that Tatsumi's ability was bad, but he was unlucky to meet such a powerful opponent like Dustless. Compared with the two, Tatsumi was trash, and the name of Dustless was confirmed. Let's call it a day. It was almost midnight. The boss Najinda waved her hand, indicating that everyone could disperse and rest. As an assassin, they must have enough energy. In the early morning of the next day, the sun rose from the east, and the sunshine was thousands of miles away. Several figures gathered in the conference room that usually had meetings. Now the sun is shining on the butt. Mine is still sleeping? This boss is too unqualified. She will definitely lead me and Dustless to the ditch. Tatsumi looked at the scorching sun in the distance, full of complaints. On the other hand, Wu-chan was reading books lazily. Unknowingly, he had developed the habit of reading books. When he was bored in every world, he would read books. It was necessary to supplement his knowledge. Dustless, greeting the boss, is also the work of the subordinates. This task is given to you. Hurry up. We still have a major task to perform today. Najinda looked at Dustless, meaning to let him call mine. It's finally fair for once. Tatsumi breathed a sigh of relief. He and mine didn't deal with each other. Dustless was the best scapegoat. No problem. Dustless heard the words and nodded. He turned and left the conference room and walked to mine's room. The new entrusted task is coming. The target to eliminate this time is the distant relative of Minister Ernest, Yokel. This guy uses his identity to bully people and do all kinds of evil things. He has done countless bad things. Since no one can punish him, then I will attack Heaven's punishment at night and eliminate him. As soon as Dustless left, the boss said today's task. Because the target was a distant relative of Ernest, and there was the protection of the masters of Huangquan Temple, in view of the danger of this task, and now that his death suddenly returned to the capital, Najinda decided to attack at night. At the same time, Wu-chan also walked to mine's room. Dong dong. After knocking on the door twice, Wu-chan saw that no one responded, so he gently pushed the door. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. The scene in front of him made Dustless lost his mind for a few seconds. He saw that mine was preparing to wear clothes. At this moment, she only wore a pink bra and pink briefs. Her white skin was all exposed in front of Dustless's eyes. Both of them were a little dull, and they looked at each other stupidly for a while. Mine's room was in a mess. The clothes were scattered all over the floor. A lot of underwear all appeared in front of Dustless's eyes, The scene was suddenly very embarrassing. Boy, choose a way to die that you like. Mine's face turned red instantly. Her romantic taigu. Pumpkin. The front of the muzzle had condensed a lot of flashes. She aimed at Dustless's head mercilessly. The light was about to destroy Dustless's body. This has nothing to do with me. Dustless's eyes were indifferent. He said calmly. First of all, I knocked on the door. The person who did not respond is you. It is reasonable for me to break in. Secondly, the boss ordered me to come to meet the boss, so you have to be prepared in advance. Also, the boss said that there's an important task to get rich. The time is tight. I can't wait for you. You are very good at talking. Mine opened her mouth and found that she had nothing to say. Dustless's words were reasonable. She did not respond when he knocked on the door, and Agenda also mentioned this to her. But your reaction is too strange. You look down on me. You seriously hurt my dignity. Mine's cheeks were full of indignation. The extinguished Taigu pumpkin shone again. She blushed as if she had been wronged. Dustless was confused. He did not know what was wrong with this girl. He did not seem to provoke her. Is this girl's head rusty? Dustless looked at the flash that locked him. His cheeks suddenly darkened. He asked angrily, "What do you mean? Now tell me clearly. You don't have any reaction when you see my body. You're looking down on me, mocking me that I don't have the charm of a woman." After a while, Mine said a very ridiculous answer. No wonder the relationship between Tatsumi and Mine is so bad. This girl's head is really broken. Hearing this strange reason, Dustless could not help but be dumbfounded. He raised his middle finger to Mine's strange idea. Dustless broke into the room without knowing it. Mine's aggrieved appearance of crying was still vivid in Dustless' mind. He wanted to dig his eyes out. Now she said that Dustless had no reaction to her body. This was looking down on her. It was simply unreasonable. This time I am unlucky. I didn't look at the almanac when I went out. There's still an assassination task today. Goodbye. Dustless cursed his bad luck secretly. He decisively turned and left. He finally could understand Tatsumi's pain. For Mine, this kind of thinking, he said that he was unable to deal with it. 1 second, she accused him of peeping at her body, and the next second, she accused him of having no lust and having no reaction to her body. Was there such a person in the world? If I didn't guess wrong, the assassination target of this mission seems to be the distant relative of Minister Ernest. In the quiet corridor, Dustless muttered, and behind him was the arrogant girl who angrily chased after him. Mine. Chapter 16:13. Mine ran over angrily. She did not expect Dustless to be so arrogant. He should know that she was his boss today. Now this guy did not even respect his boss. Unforgivable. Stop right there. Mine grabbed Dustless's hands and immediately blocked in front of him. She shouted arrogantly, "I am your boss today. Pay attention to your attitude." Attitude? What attitude? Dustless ignored her, and then his face showed ridicule. He ridiculed, "If you continue to take off your clothes, I must run far away, so as not to get involved." Mine stamped her feet when she heard the words. Looking at Dustless's particularly annoying face, she couldn't help but be angry. She had to use her trump card. You are not qualified. You are definitely not qualified to be an assassin. Continue to be a cook with Akame. That's not up to you. If the boss says so, I have no opinion. Shrugging, Dustless passed over Mine's shoulder and went straight to the direction of the conference room. You better not fall into my hands. Glaring at Dustless fiercely, Mine, who had nowhere to vent her anger, blushed and was extremely uncomfortable. Where is Tatsumi? You two novices are outrageous. One ignored my authority, and the other simply did not come to greet me. Do you still need to say it? That's because Tatsumi looks down on you. Dustless suddenly added fuel to the fire and smiled maliciously. If Mine was willing to beat Tatsumi, it would be a good deal. I will let that guy go for the time being. Mine was not fooled, but followed Dustless's footsteps to the conference room. Are you two finally here? As soon as he came in, Tatsumi's strange voice sounded. He tried to capture the depression from Dustless's face. After all, Mine was notoriously difficult to serve. Unexpectedly, Dustless seemed to be fine, but mine was furious. Umph. Mine seemed to notice Tatsumi's sight. Mine just glared at him, and Tatsumi suddenly shrank his neck. Is this guy angry? I didn't offend her. Tatsumi was secretly depressed. He had a feeling of being shot even when he was lying down. He looked at Dustless gloomily. Dustless was definitely the one who set him up. Everyone, move out for the night raid. Our target this time is Iyokul. I repeat, that guy is a distant relative of Minister Ernest. He is protected by the masters of the Huangquan Temple. Everyone, be careful. Boss Najinda finally ordered, and then all the members of the night raid nodded and disappeared. Swish, swish. In the dark room, several black shadows were running around. Everyone's skills were extremely vigorous. Even Tatsumi, a rookie, was improving rapidly. He was trained quite well by Bullet. The members of the night raid barely recognized Tatsumi's existence. The hazy moonlight hung high in the sky, and the night was exceptionally quiet. Do you see that brightly lit villa? That is the place where Iyokul lives. There are masters around to protect it. We will definitely suffer if we approach it rashly. It is not far from the capital. Maybe there will be support from the army. Akame pointed to the huge building complex in the distance and introduced it to Dustless and others. Let mine do the long-range sniping. She is a shooting genius, so we will not be exposed. Looking at mine, Dustless suggested. Of course, I can definitely blow his head. Being praised by Dustless in public, mine was quite proud. She raised the taigu and looked like she was very strong. But then Leonette lowered her voice and frowned. Boss asked us to complete the task tonight, but what if Iyokul stays at home and doesn't come out? How can mine snipe? And if the time is delayed for a long time, it will attract the attention of the capital. Minister Ernest attaches great importance to that guy. Lubbock also worried. Recently, Isteth was searching for them like crazy. If there was any trouble, she would come and find trouble with Night Raid. It's actually very simple to drive Iyokul out of the house. Dustless said and attracted everyone's attention. What plan? Night Raid asked curiously. It was difficult to think of a way to end the battle quickly. Dustless heard the words and just laughed twice. He did not say much. His eyes just looked at Tatsumi. The cunning look made Tatsumi vomit blood. Pucci, the water that he drank a few hours ago, was all spat out. Tatsumi knew that Dustless was going to trick him again. Tatsumi went to set fire to the guy's house, and he ran out. Dustless said with a smile, "Unless the guy wants to be burned alive, he will definitely run out of the courtyard. Why don't you go?" Tatsumi asked with a black face. Akame and others are responsible for blocking the enemy, and I am responsible for protecting the safety of mine. Only you are free. If you don't go, who will go? Dustless asked calmly. You can also go. I am responsible for protecting mine. Tatsumi argued with reason. He was particularly unhappy to be ordered by Dustless. Because I am stronger than you, so I am more suitable to protect mine. She is a sniper. She's not good at close combat. I am the one who is best at close combat. Dustless said as a matter of fact. Tatsumi wanted to cry, but had no tears. It seemed that he was the weakest in this team. He had no choice but to obey Dustless's order to be responsible for setting the fire. Mine, you decide who will set the fire. Tatsumi looked at the arrogant Mine expectantly with his bright eyes. Unexpectedly, Mine's words made Tatsumi dizzy with anger. You look so bad. If I team up with you, I will definitely be killed first. Dustless is right. You set the fire, and he is responsible for covering me. Mine was very comfortable with Dustless's flattery just now. The feeling of floating had not disappeared yet. At the same time, she was disgusted with Tatsumi. This guy was much worse than Dustless. Chapter 16:14. Tatsumi even had the thought of committing suicide. He stared at Mine and Dustless sadly. He did not expect that these two people would go together, and now they even wore the same pants. Tatsumi's mind was blank and confused. Why don't you go? Looking at Tatsumi, who was unlucky, Dustless was particularly refreshed. Phew! Tatsumi did not forget to look at Dustless when he left. Then he went to set the fire, without hesitation, to carry out the stupid plan of Dustless. For this fantasy plan, Tatsumi naturally resisted. Last time, he listened to Dustless's bad idea of dressing as a man. As a result, he was beaten violently by Aoka, who recognized him, and he even lost a few teeth. Tatsumi only hoped to survive this time. It was a good ending if he did not die. Isn't this a bit difficult for Tatsumi? Akame could not bear to stand up. In her eyes, although Tatsumi was unreliable, there was no doubt that he was also one of the companions. Don't worry, as long as I can lead Aoka out, I can kill him in an instant. Mine raised the taiga pumpkin and said confidently, if Tatsumi can't even complete this kind of thing, I will personally send him home. Bullet suddenly said it was just setting a fire. If he could not complete this, then he should not be a killer. He should go home to wash and sleep quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Tatsumi did not let everyone down this time. After only a few minutes of sneaking in, he set a fire in several different directions, and the choking smoke rose to the sky. It's better that the kid is burned to death himself. Sitting lazily on the treetop, Dustless picked up a grass in his mouth, and his head lazily rested on his hands, looking at the situation in the distance. After a while, he reminded, Mine, the guy named Aoka is coming out, get ready. Impossible. Mine was stunned and then denied. It is hundreds of meters away from Aoka's house. You don't have any instrument to help you. How can human eyes see clearly? If you don't believe it, you can have a look. Dustless shrugged and said indifferently. This, Mine nodded slightly. Through the precise optical telescope in her right eye, the scene hundreds of meters away was very clear. Because the house was burned, Aoka, who escaped in a panic, was panting heavily, and a large number of followers followed behind him. What kind of freak is this guy? Mine scratched her head and couldn't figure out why a human being could see the face of a person hundreds of meters away. This was something that only monsters could do. Phew, stable, complex emotions. The taigu in Mine's hand pointed to Aoka's head. Bang, bang. After a while, a gunshot rang out, and a golden ray of light shot out, piercing through the night sky and instantly closing in on Aoka's head. Poochie. The next second, his head was pierced by Mine. Good marksmanship. Dustless and others were amazed. At the same time, except for Dustless and Mine, the others rushed to the ambush location in advance. Since Aoka was killed, his men would definitely go crazy. If there was no murderer, they could not explain to Minister Ernest. Then they would die. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Sure enough, Aoka was killed, and it immediately attracted countless killers. They all rushed to the place where Mine shot the gun. The mission is completed. Let's retreat. Mine stretched out and suggested. The idea is good, but we have no chance. Dustless's sight extended to the limit. He could see the wind and grass around him. He sighed. Many people are coming. We are surrounded. No. Mine heard the words and suddenly retorted loudly. How long has it been? How can they catch up with us? Did someone lead them here? You are really right. Dustless shrugged and looked along his sight. He found that a thin figure was running quickly. This person was Tatsumi, and behind him was a group of boxing masters of Huangquan Temple. This idiot. Mine's mouth twitched when she saw this. She wanted to shoot Tatsumi, this idiot. Why did he run here? He could change to another position. This kid is also helpless. Dustless rarely helped Tatsumi, and said plainly, don't you understand? Tatsumi means to attract all the enemies and annihilate them in one fell swoop. Annihilate them in one fell swoop? Mine's face darkened, and she glanced over. There were at least dozens of people. Could they be annihilated at will? Tatsumi's action was a blatant, deceptive behavior. It seems that there is no way. Akame and the others have left. There are only 3 of us. Dustless frowned. It seemed that Mine, himself, and Tatsumi were all besieged. This idiot, let me kill Tatsumi first. Mine, who was angry, shouted. The pumpkin even shone and aimed at Tatsumi's head. Didn't I say before, you are responsible for sniping, and I am responsible for close combat. Dustless jumped down from the treetop and moved his waist. Under Mine's horrified gaze, a large group of lights condensed in his hand. Yasakani no Magatama. The golden light bullets instantly shot out like countless shooting stars. They were exceptionally dazzling, and they instantly tore apart and exterminated all living creatures. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. Under Mind's surprised gaze, the masters of Huangquan Temple were slaughtered in an instant. The situation was almost overwhelming. There was no difference between the strong and the weak. Anyone who was in contact with the light would definitely die. Everyone showed a painful expression. Their bodies had been destroyed and pierced by the light. They died horribly. Chapter 16:15. Looking at the horrified body, even with Mind's temperament, she was also shocked. Needless to say, Tatsumi was already scared and panicked. Guru, Mind and Tatsumi both choked and looked at Dustless with awe. No matter how the times changed, people's nature of following the strong would not change. This guy, I am not in the same dimension as him. Up to now, Tatsumi also knew the gap with Dustless. This guy was not a human being. Was this kind of trick that killed dozens of people in an instant that a human being should have? Tatsumi's eyes looking at Dustless also changed. Is this guy a human who disguised as a super dangerous species? Tatsumi secretly guessed. In fact, not only Tatsumi had this strange idea, even Mind was no exception. She was shocked by that kind of large-scale trick. It could be confirmed that it was not a taigu, then it could only be a super dangerous species in the legend. Hey, you're not a super dangerous species that turned into a human being. Taigu aimed at Dustless. Mind asked unkindly. You are very suspicious. After hearing the words, Dustless just glanced at Mind faintly. The girl wore a pink dress. A breeze came. The pink ponytail danced with the wind. The delicate face was full of alert. The face was full of confidence. It seemed that she could kill all the enemies. She was very confident in her strength. At this time, Dustless's brows slightly raised, staring at the forest behind Mind. His eyebrows flashed in imperceptible coldness. Phew, phew, phew. Dustless's incarnation flashed. He appeared behind Mind in a flash like a light, and he held Mind tightly with the speed of lightning. Bastard, what do you want to do? Mind was shocked by this sudden move. Her face suddenly became as red as an apple. When she was about to point at Dustless's nose and scold him, a sudden change occurred. Damn, your reaction is really sharp. A black shadow came out of the woods. It was only an inch away from Mind. Even the cold sword that had been out of the sheath had been taken out of the sheath. It wanted to cut Mind into pieces. Damn it! Mind scolded when she saw this. Her anger toward Dustless also disappeared in an instant. If it weren't for Dustless, maybe she would have been killed. Thinking about it, Mind felt a chill. Die! The Imperial Fist temple attacker who suddenly appeared shouted. The crescent blade in his hand had already stabbed forward. It was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen. So fast, Mind's face changed slightly, because this person changed his speed quickly and ran in an S-shaped route. Almost every time, it was a fleeting moment. In an instant, it had approached Mind and Dustless. Since you're working so hard, I'll prepare a luxurious funeral for you. Dustless murmured as he glanced at the black afterimage. In the void, countless sharp black blades attacked from all directions. Dow, Breaker 90, Black Coffin. Although this person ran fast, compared with Dow Breaker 90, Black Coffin, he was insignificant. His speed was as slow as a turtle, and he was killed by Black Coffin in an instant. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. The sound of the body being cut suddenly sounded. The attacker of Imperial Fist Temple disappeared instantly. There were only some bones on the ground, the broken bones and the dismembered internal organs. Vomit, 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 vomit. Seeing such a bloody scene, Tatsumi couldn't help but vomit. Although he had been an assassin for a few days, it was the first time for him to witness such a miserable ending. Cough, cough, cough. Mind coughed twice awkwardly and immediately jumped out of Dustless's arms. She pointed at Dustless and said proudly, "Don't think that you can hug me casually because you saved me." Really, Wu Chun just glanced at her coldly and muttered to himself, I wonder who was the one who was wriggling in my arms like a cat. After these words, mine instantly blushed and stamped her feet. Then she quickly turned her back to Dustless. It couldn't be helped. It was a nerve reflex that couldn't help. The abnormality of Dustless and mine attracted the attention of other members of the night raid. When everyone rushed over, the scene was already full of screams. Among the dozens of corpses, only 3 people were alive. Mine, Dustless, and Tatsumi, who was vomiting. In the early morning of the next day, the scorching sun filled the whole sky. Yesterday's task was completed very well. You really didn't let me down, Dustless. Patting Dustless's shoulder, the boss Najinda looked very relieved. As for Tatsumi, he had been ignored by him. Boss, glancing at Najinda helplessly, Dustless said bluntly, the boss is a task for me. Otherwise she will not come to me early in the morning. You found it? Najinda was surprised and immediately admitted it generously. She cautiously said, there is indeed a dangerous person. Is it the beheading Zank? The boss came to witness it because she wants me to kill him. It's better to take back the kid's Taigu, right? How do you know? Najinda was surprised. She didn't tell anyone about it. It's very simple. Dustless explained and complained to himself. Although the night raid is a killer, the essential purpose is to eradicate the corruption in this country. Those turbulent factors the future country does not need are naturally the first target of the night raid. Chapter 16:16. But at this point, Dustless's voice fell silent. He was not afraid of Zank the Decapitator. That kid was just a clown. The reason why the Empire could collapse in the future was undoubtedly due to the efforts of Scarlet Eye and the others. However, there was almost no trace of them in the rise of the new country. It was really not worth it to sacrifice for them. It's good that you know the beheading Zank. He is different from other enemies. He is a Taigu user. In the duel between Taigu, one party will definitely die. So Najinda's tone said until here, and her voice stopped. She looked at Dustless with expectation. The meaning was self-evident. She probably expected Dustless to kill the beheading Zank alone. Unfortunately, his plan was doomed to fail. Najinda, next time when you discuss this kind of secret with me, you'd better look behind you. Pointing to the position of the bedroom door, Dustless spread his hands to show that it had nothing to do with him. Najinda turned her head and looked. It was Akame, and others were wearing pajamas. It is too dangerous for such a dangerous person to be solved by Dustless alone. Taigu users should be solved by us who have Taigu. Akame took a step forward and volunteered. Looking carefully, Akame and mine, as well as Leon and Gil, including Najinda, were all wearing pajamas. Their curvaceous figures were exposed, but at this moment, everyone was immersed in the beheading Zank incident and ignored the sneaky eyes. Lubbock was still sleeping. Bullet and Tatsumi went out to patrol. Such a beautiful scenery only benefited Dustless. Leave it to me. I also want to see the difference between the Taiga users. Stretching deeply, Dustless walked out of the quilt, opened the curtains, and enjoyed the morning sun comfortably. He closed his eyes, and his expression was a little lazy. He closed his eyes very lazily, murmuring and humming a song. He seemed to be in a good mood. This guy, mine looked at Dustless with a little stupor. At present, he was the opposite of the usual pompous Dustless. He looked very peaceful, warm, and trustworthy. The rising sun shone on Dustless's face, which was particularly charming. I didn't expect this guy to have such a gentle side. Thinking of the experience of being hugged by Dustless yesterday, mine couldn't help blushing. She looked around subconsciously, but found that Chi Tong and others were staring at Dustless. Somehow, mine was quite uncomfortable. Out of a woman's nature, mine could feel the strange sight of Chi Tong and others. Dustless in this state was particularly lazy, revealing an indescribable unique temperament. Unlike his usual sloppy self, he was very confident. No, let's go together this time. Mine took the lead in retorting with a tone that she would definitely kill Zank. Do as you like. Glancing at mine in surprise, Dustless felt strange. He was not confident when Mine stared at him. After all, this guy still hated him a few days ago. Today, her tone vaguely had a sense of protection. Let's do it after dark. Seeing that everyone insisted, Najinda no longer stopped them. Everything was opposite. There were advantages and disadvantages. Killing Zank in a group could also increase their experience in the future. After all, Isteth was a real Taiga user. They would meet this guy sooner or later. It was good to do an experiment in advance now. But I have a suggestion. Mine suddenly spoke at this time and rationally suggested. This is a battle between Taiga users. I suggest not to let Tatsumi participate in it. Killing Zank is too difficult for him. No problem. I will explain this to Tatsumi personally. Let's do it tonight. Sneak into the capital. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A cold wind swept across the vast land. The Empire at midnight was especially frightening. In some small alleys, one could even hear hysterical curses. The capital at night was a hell in human skin. It seems that the boss failed. Tatsumi followed again. On the abandoned building, several black shadows were looming in the night sky. Only people with excellent eyesight could see these figures clearly with the faint moonlight. The person who complained about Tatsumi was Dustless. What are you looking at? You can come without Taigu. Why can't I come? Tatsumi found Dustless's strange eyes and suddenly shouted with dissatisfaction. Whatever you want, don't blame us for not reminding you when you die. But, looking at the wanted order in his hand, Dustless was quite entangled and complained. This must be his death's revenge on me deliberately. How can I be so ugly? Just a few days ago, Dustless was also inevitably wanted, and his wanted order was all over the street. Killing Zank, the guy specially selects the person who is alone. Each of us is divided into two groups to walk on the street and attract that guy out. Mine and Hill were a group, Bullet and Tatsumi were a group, Lionel and Lubbock were a group. As for Dustless, this time he and Akame were a group to search for Killing Zank. On the dark street, Dustless and Akame walked side by side. The bottomless street was particularly gloomy and terrifying. The deeper they went, the more obvious the screams were. We don't seem to be the target. Dustless shook his head slightly and remembered Tatsumi, who was targeted in the original work. He grabbed Akame's small hand and rushed to the area where Tatsumi and Bullet were responsible. Being suddenly attacked by Dustless, Akame struggled for a while and gave up after she had no result. She let Dustless take her to the place. Chapter 16-17. On the other side, Bullet and Tatsumi were also struggling to track down Zank. Damn Dustless! Tatsumi cursed Dustless in his heart as he walked. Since meeting this guy, his life has fallen into the most miserable period. Tatsumi, when performing a task, you have to concentrate. Looking at the absent-minded Tatsumi, Bullet suddenly shouted, "Otherwise, at your level, you will never surpass Dustless in your life." Bullet had to come up with his secret weapon. The words Dustless were spiritual food for Tatsumi. So, I still have a chance to surpass that guy. Sure enough, after hearing the words Dustless, Tatsumi suddenly felt refreshed and asked with great expectation, "I also hope that I will surpass Dustless in the future." Unfortunately, speaking of this, Tatsumi's mouth twitched obviously. Thinking of Dustless's abnormal record, like a deflated ball, he suddenly became very dispirited. That guy is very strong, but he is just a human being. We are all human beings. If you can work hard, you may directly surpass him in the future. Bullet smiled and persuaded, but he smiled bitterly in his heart. Don't talk about Tatsumi, he can't do it himself. He said this just to cheer Tatsumi up. Happy, happy. On a tall building, a strange man with a hideous face looked down at Bullet and the depressed Tatsumi. His evil face was directly distorted, revealing a thrilling, killing intent. Since you are so depressed, I will send you to heaven. This person is Zank, and the person he is staring at is Tatsumi. Where did those two guys go? After running a few streets, Dustless did not find any trace of Tatsumi. In desperation, he could only spread out his observation hockey. Why are you sure that Zank will look for Tatsumi? That guy is temperamental. and his goal may be us. Akame blinked her beautiful eyes and asked, "Because that guy looks like he died early." Dustless curled his lips and snorted disdainfully. This was the case in the original work. The poor Tatsumi was the first to be beheaded by Zank. If Akame hadn't arrived in time, that kid would have died long ago. Found it. After a while, Dustless's closed eyes suddenly opened, shooting out a burst of cold light. "Is it Tatsumi?" Scarlet Pupil asked expectantly. She was even more curious about Dustless's ability. This guy stood still, but he said that he found Tatsumi. After searching a few streets, he didn't find Tatsumi. No, Dustless shook his head. He shifted his gaze and stared at the dark street on the left. The silhouette with fiery eyes appeared on the surface of the water. "We didn't find Tatsumi, but we did find Zank." No, rather than saying that we found him, it's better to say that this guy took the initiative to find us. Facing Zank's shocked gaze, Dustless appeared extremely calm. Akame's katana was unsheathed, like a knight guarding in front of Dustless. What a pity! Dustless sighed in his heart. He originally wanted to use Zank to kill Tatsumi, but he didn't expect this guy to find him and Scarlet Pupil in advance. According to Scarlet Pupil's temperament, she would never let this guy go so easily. Ta-da! It was also at this time that the alley on the other side seemed to have noticed the abnormality here. A burst of hurried footsteps ran over without stopping. "It's Tatsumi and Bullet?" After figuring out who the newcomers were, Dustless frowned slightly, sighing inwardly that Zonko was so unlucky. He didn't encounter Tatsumi and Bullet, who were relatively weak, but he encountered himself and Akame instead. Happy, happy, happy. Zank's excited laughter came out of the beheading man's mouth. He muttered to himself, "I'm so lucky to have met you too. Fortunately, I didn't sneak attack the combination just now. Otherwise, I would definitely be finished. Although that kid is very weak, that strong guy is unreliable. I'm not sure if I can win against him." Kid and strong guy? Scarlet Pupil raised her eyebrows slightly when she heard this. She glanced at Zank in surprise. "You should be talking about Bullet and Tatsumi, right?" Dustless said lightly and asked with great interest, "You're called Zank, right?" "You're right. Bullet's strength is not something you can compete with. But now that you're treating me and Scarlet Pupil as prey, do you think we're easier to deal with than Bullet?" "Happy, happy." Zank laughed when he heard this and said proudly, "Yes, that strong guy is called Bullet. I felt a threat from that man, so I changed the prey to the two of you. How is it? My eyes are good, right? Happy, happy. Who asked you two to be weaker than him? Is that so?" Dustless glanced at him coldly when he heard this. Then light flickered on his right arm, and a slender golden greatsword was formed in an instant. Swish, swish, swish. Dustless turned into a golden light and instantly appeared in front of Zank. The greatsword containing golden light had already swept toward Zank. Poochie. This guy didn't even have time to react before he was instantly crippled by Dustless, and one of his arms was easily cut off. How is this possible? I didn't see it at all." Zank looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. His bulging eyeballs were terrifying, as if they were about to fall out. "Your eyes are good, but Bullet's is stronger than yours. This is a fact. However, Scarlet Pupil and I, who are hiding our auras, are far more dangerous than Bullet and Tatsumi." Chapter 16-18. So fast. Akame was also stunned. She realized that when Dustless appeared, Janka's arm had already fallen. It was too fast. Everything happened in a split second. In fact, if it weren't for the sound of Zang's arm falling off, Scarlet, I would still be in the dark and wouldn't have realized what had happened. How was this possible? Zank was dumbfounded. He even forgot about the pain of losing his arm. His eyes were fixed on the young silhouette in front of him. That thin body and pale face. It was obvious that he was a pampered young master. How could he possess such unprecedented strength? Damn it! Janka vomited blood. He thought that the hungry wolf found a fat sheep, but the cruel scene in front of him made him shocked to find that the weak sheep suddenly turned into a fierce tiger. "Even if I die, I will drag you to the grave with me." Janka's eyes were fierce, and he quickly launched the ability of Taigu. Buzz, the Taigu tied to his forehead flashed with emerald light, and then Zhanka laughed arrogantly. Ha ha! I will win this duel. Zhanka's Taigu, omnipotent 5 vision, observer, a Taigu with 5 abilities: insight, farsight, X-ray, future vision, and illusion. Insight could see through the other person's mind by observing the expression. Farsight could see things in the distance. X-ray could ignore obstacles to see the target. Future vision could see the next situation through the subtle movements of muscles. Illusion could make the other person see illusions. Ha ha ha! Are you hallucinating now? I am the closest person to you. Zhanka laughed arrogantly in his heart. His other arm had already picked up the big sword cruelly. Dustless in front of him was motionless. His expression always remained cold. Deep in his calm eyes, there were no waves. Ha ha ha! Go to hell! With an excited shout, Zhanka's right arm held the big sword and slashed down. Poochie! Blood splashed into the void and scattered all over the ground. It showed a blood-red plum blossom shape, which was extremely strange. At the same time, a huge body knelt on the ground. How? How is this possible? The injured person. Why is it me? I should be the closest person to you now. Zank the Decapitator roared at the sky. Looking closely, a scorched wound had appeared on his chest, and the fatal wound was rapidly devouring his life force. A demon like you would even lay hands on your own family? Zhanka, who noticed that his vitality was gone, was furious. His face was full of fear. In front of this guy, he was trampled miserably like a little mouse. The so-called super weapon, Taigu, was useless. It's too funny. Without even looking at Zank, Dustless's face only showed a touch of ridicule. The ignorant are fearless. Playing Jinjutsu in front of me, who has Rinnegan Sharingan, I really don't understand where your confidence comes from. No matter what kind of illusion, the essence was a spiritual attack. For Dustless, who had a huge and invincible spiritual power, this little Taigu wanted to use illusion on him. It was completely humiliating. It's almost time to come. Glancing at the figures coming from the depths of the dark street, Dustless's cheeks flashed a strange smile. He leaned close to Zhanka's ear, smiled coldly, and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Now, I will let you see what a real Jinjutsu is. Use your last time to kill Tatsumi, my loyal soldier." Ordering me? Zhanka, the Decapitator, was furious when he heard that. Do you think I can be ordered casually? He opened his mouth, and when he was about to mock Dustless, a majestic spiritual power invaded Zhanka, the Decapitator's mind. It was more than hundreds of times stronger than Taigu. Zhanka, the Decapitator, instantly became strange, and he turned to stare at the intruder who suddenly appeared. Oh! Zhanka, the Decapitator, suddenly stood up and went crazy. Regardless of the many wounds on his body, he crazily slashed at Tatsumi. Only careful people could find that the depths of this guy's eyes lost their luster. He was just a puppet, and the person who controlled him was Dustless. Why did this homicidal maniac suddenly attack me? Tatsumi looked at Zhanka, the Decapitator, who was bloodthirsty, and he wanted to cry, but had no tears. He just wanted to witness the scene of Dustless being brutally beaten. Who knew that Zhanka, the Decapitator's brain, suddenly went crazy, and he did not hesitate to kill him together. Clang! Tatsumi was not weak either. He immediately pulled out a big sword to fight back against Zhanka, the Decapitator. Boom, boom, boom. However, Tatsumi was obviously not the opponent of Zhanka, the Decapitator. The two sides just met face to face. Tatsumi was blown dozens of meters away by the force from the giant sword, and he spat out blood. Zhanka, the Decapitator, chased after him. When he was about to kill him completely, a shadow and armor fell from the sky, and the cold light that followed cut Zhanka, the Decapitator's throat. Poochie! The cold light flashed fiercely, smashed Zhanka, the Decapitator, in one fell swoop, and his head was smashed into pieces. The sky even had a horrible bloody rain full of the smell of blood. Looking up, it was Tatsumi's backer, Bullet. This guy really likes to meddle in other people's business. Originally, I was not interested in you. But if you want to die, then you can't blame me for being ruthless. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly, staring at the majestic bullet, and a piercing chill flashed across his cheeks. He just wanted to kill Tatsumi with a borrowed knife. If Bullet meddled in other people's business, he could only kill him as well. It's good that everyone is fine. Akame breathed a sigh of relief. Killing Janka, the decapitator, so easily was beyond her expectations. There was no such thing as a stalemate. Dustless's attack was a one-sided crushing and annihilation. Chapter 1619. Looking at Tatsumi, who was safe and sound, Dustless was quite upset. This guy's protagonist aura made him ridiculously lucky. Every time, there was a savior who helped him. In this case, then he could only get rid of this savior. Bullet, you are really powerful, Dustless. Bullet liberated the armor and looked at the wound on Zank's abdomen. Dustless almost crushed his internal organs with one sword, and all the internal organs were burned by the light sword, and the smell of the strange barbecue filled the air. Is this thing a taigu? Looking at the emerald ornaments scattered on the ground, Tatsumi excitedly picked them up and put them on his hand. How about I use this thing? It's not up to you to decide. Glancing at Tatsumi coldly, Dustless's palm broke out a strong gravitational force. Wanxiang Tianyu. The taigu in Tatsumi's hand suddenly fell into the hands of Dustless, and he said without hesitation, "The ownership of this thing can only be decided by the boss." You. Tatsumi was angry when he heard the words. He wanted to beat Dustless, but he retracted his hand. The strength of this guy was too terrifying. 100 or even 1,000 of him were not his opponents. The two sides were completely incomparable. At the same time, Guillemine also heard the news and came to look at the body on the ground. The two women were relieved, and then everyone returned to the base after a few words. Tatsumi, try it first. Inside the base of the night raid, the voice of the boss, Najinda, sounded. Thank you, boss. I will not let you down. Tatsumi excitedly took over the taigu that was handed over. This was the relic of Zank. Tatsumi, you have to believe in your ability. Tatsumi's boss, Bullet, encouraged loudly. I will, brother. Tatsumi heard the words and nodded excitedly. He immediately learned the appearance of Zank and put the taigu on his head. He stared at Bullet in front of him, and then he was in a trance. After a while, Bullet's naked appearance came into his eyes. What did you see? Mine, Leonette, and others asked. Dustless smirked and deliberately raised his voice. I heard the guy Zank said that his taigu has the ability of 5 vision, that is insight, telescopic, clairvoyant, future vision, and illusion. Tatsumi is so fascinated. He probably saw Bullet's naked body. TSK. Saliva is flowing out. Sure enough, Tatsumi and Bullet are both gay. No wonder you two get along so well. Pucci. Tatsumi turned his head angrily when he heard the words. However, before he turned his head, he was sent flying with a punch. Bang, bang, bang. Leonette, who was straightforward, gave Tatsumi a few punches without hesitation, and then forcibly took away Tatsumi's taigu and said to the boss directly, such obscene props should not appear inside the night raid. Not bad. Chitong. Mine and others nodded and agreed with Leonie's suggestion. What would happen if this thing fell into the hands of a man with bad intentions? Since this is the case, give it to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. The boss Najinda thought deeply and nodded. It was too dangerous to leave this strange taigu in the night raid, and it was not useful. Recently, there are many corrupt officials who have no conscience. You continue to go to the imperial capital to perform the task. You must eliminate the root of the problem. Najinda said with a murderous tone, this bastard is really hateful. I finally got a taigu, and it disappeared because of Dustless. Damn it, Wu-chun couldn't have been sent down by the heavens to deliberately go against me, right? Tatsumi had a sad expression, not to mention that he was punched by Leonette for a few times. Even the taigu that was eager to see through also said goodbye to him. Tatsumi's heart was broken into ice. In a magnificent palace, Generalist Death, you have made a contribution to defeat the alien race, and you are rewarded with thousands of gold. Sitting on the dragon throne made of gold, the young Emperor's Death said, "Thank you, your majesty. Please give these things to my subordinates." His Death nodded. Although this little guy was the emperor, she did not respect him at all. After all, he was just a plaything of the Minister Ernest. He was just a puppet prop used to control the empire. "General, what other wishes do you have?" It seemed that she felt sorry for his death. The young emperor said generously, "Everything you want will be realized. Your majesty is wise." A tall and strong man walked out from the back of the emperor's dragon throne, holding a piece of meat in his hand and biting it. "All the wishes of Generalist Death will be realized. Do you have other wishes?" Isteth bowed her head and thought for a moment. She suddenly remembered the outline of Dustless in her mind. In the past, Isteth had no goals in life because she was invincible in the world. Now, Dustless suddenly rose. Isteth was full of expectations for the future. "I have 3 wishes at present. The first is to catch Dustless, the bastard boy." Thinking of Dustless's wicked smile, Isteth immediately gnashed her teeth and immediately continued. "As for the next 2 wishes, I hope to form a special team to deal with the night attack. The other wish is to fall in love, and there is already a suitable candidate." Fall in love? Minister Ernest and the Emperor looked at each other, and they were both shocked. After dozens of seconds, they stared at Isteth tightly. Generalist Death actually wants to fall in love, and there is a suitable candidate. Who is so lucky to get the general's pity? Although Minister Ernest said so, in his heart, he felt sorry for the person Isteth liked. Chapter 16:20. Who is it? Isteth was in a trance when she heard the words, and immediately explained, "Although there is a gap between that guy and the person I like, he is also the closest. Who on earth is so powerful?" The young emperor was also interested. The person who could make Isteth favor. The whole world's population would be curious about him. "I have said it before," Isteth said meaningfully, "that guy is very strong, and he is not from the imperial capital like me. He has a big goal and is ambitious at the same time. Although he is not suitable in some other aspects, it doesn't matter. It is God's blessing that I can find that guy." Isteth saw through it quite clearly. There is no perfect human being in this world, and everything could not be changed according to one's own logical thinking. "You said it?" Minister Ornit was also surprised when he heard this. After recalling what Isteth said, he said loudly, "Is it that Dustless? That guy is a member of the Night Raid." The young emperor frowned. However, Isteth did not pay attention to him. Her eyes just looked at the big guy next to him. Minister Ornit was the emperor's father. He was more like a father than a father. "Yes, it is him." Isteth nodded and immediately said without concealing, "However, I just intend to raise that guy as a pet. Dustless left a deep impression on me. It is difficult to forget him. That guy humiliated me again and again. I must catch him back and feed him." Since she was young, Isteth had always put a collar on others. Only last time was an exception. Not to mention that she suffered a loss in the hands of Dustless. She was also put on a collar by him. It was unbearable. Isteth was always thinking about revenge against Dustless. "I see." Minister Ornit was surprised after hearing it, and he was too lazy to continue talking nonsense with Isteth. Once this woman decided on something, no one could pull her back. "Then congratulations to the general for your success." Minister Ornit knew that his denial could not change the will of Isteth. In this case, it was better to sell a favor to Isteth so that the alliance between them could be more consolidated. "Then we must capture that guy." The young emperor also agreed. Since the honorable father had spoken, as a good son, he naturally had to agree to it as well. Although the two of them were not related by blood, there was no doubt that Osnit's relationship with the emperor was even stronger than that of a father. The emperor would agree to all of Osnit's conditions. In another direction, Pucci, in the pitch-black room, a large amount of blood suddenly appeared in the air and covered the floor. Looking around, the entire room was filled with corpses. They had all been killed in an extremely cruel manner. They had all been cut in half at the waist. TSK, This weapon is really scary. Dustless quietly looked at the scissors in Hill's hand and couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. No matter who it was, if they were hit by this thing, they could end up being cut in half. This group of people had all died in such a miserable way. Retreat, mine and Hill. Glancing at the pink-haired girl, Dustless took the lead to leave the smoky room. Corpses had been piled up everywhere, and they were all killed mercilessly by Dustless and others. This guy dares to order us too. This newcomer is too arrogant. He has no rules at all. Facing us two veterans, he should try to please us. Mine hummed and said, deliberately raising her voice to let Dustless hear. Dustless walked away. Even if he heard it, he turned a deaf ear to Mine's complaints. After joining the night raid for so many days, he had heard her complaints and had become immune. Is that so? Hill's naturally dull little face showed a meaningful smile. Then you didn't refuse his order. Hill, you figure out your position for me. The two of us are good teammates in the same trench. Mine blushed after being stunned for a moment. Unconsciously, her teammates were all turned against her. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Just at this time, Dustless suddenly stopped and looked at the forest on the left side with a cold face. There was a cold gaze looking at them. Is there an enemy? Hill and Mine made a fighting posture. They looked in the direction of Dustless, and a girl in the Special Zones Guard uniform came into view. It's really her. Seeing this person appear, Dustless was not surprised. What should come will come. In the original work, Hill was killed by this guy ruthlessly. I spent a lot of time waiting every day, and finally you are here. Night raid. After the voice fell, the good-looking girl immediately turned into an evil spirit. Her distorted face was full of horror and killing intent. A surging chill rushed to Dustless and others. This person was a member of the Special Zones Guard, Seleubiatus. You are a group of evil people. You must be punished with justice. Seleubiatus came out of the dark woods with a white puppy. Dustless knew that it was the Taigu of Seleubiatus, the demon beast transformed into 100-armed giant, the dog that had been called Shauka. It looked harmless on the surface, but it was actually a very ferocious existence. Is this woman's head broken? The situation is not clear. The current situation is 3v1. She has no chance to win. Chapter 16:21. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? She hasn't figured out the situation. The current situation is 3v1. She has no chance to win. Mine sneered coldly. This stupid woman didn't even seem to figure out the basic situation. The people who were at an absolute disadvantage were not her and Hill, but Seleucid Ubiquitas. Seleucid Ubiquitas heard the words and slightly raised his mouth, revealing a ferocious arc. There is no weakness or advantage in punishing evil. I just need to annihilate all of you. Seleucid Ubiquita's mouth opened, a dark muzzle was exposed, and a dazzling bullet was shot from the front. Bang, bang, bang. Several shots were shot in succession. The dense fire was shot to Dustless and other two people. Phew, phew, phew. Hill and Mine, who realized the danger, retreated, and only Dustless was like a stone, standing still as if it had nothing to do with him. He go to hell. Seleucid Ubiquitas felt pity. Although he was a little disappointed that two people ran away, it was not bad to kill one of the members of the night raid. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless's body was penetrated by the bullets. There were more than a dozen holes. His heart was destroyed. He would definitely die. Idiot, why don't you dodge? Mine saw the wounds on Dustless's body. Her tone suddenly increased several times, and the Taigu in her hand shone with a huge, dazzling light of destruction. Boom, boom, boom. A ray of destructive light shot out. It was several times stronger than usual. Dustless's death was a big blow to Mine. After all, Dustless had saved her. Phew, phew, phew. The thick light came to him. Seleucid Ubiquitas was shocked. He quickly said to his Taigu, "Little coop, block it for me." Ow, ow. A strange sound came out from the mouth of this strange creature. Then his body became countless times bigger, revealing his horrible and gloomy appearance. He blocked in front of Seleucid Ubiquitas like a meat shield. Boom, boom, boom. However, mine, who was angry, was also much more powerful. She instantly destroyed this biotype Taigu. Pucci. There was a huge hole in Coco's abdomen. Even her organs had been completely crushed. The hole was large enough for a person to walk through. Little Ko, you bastard, how dare you? Celia Ubiquita's face was distorted even more. The black hole in her mouth was exposed again, and she unceremoniously shot a bullet at mine. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The dense firepower net of bullets came head-on, and there was no way to escape. Mine was going to be shot into a sieve. Damn it, mine scolded secretly. She was sweating. She couldn't escape from both sides. There was no shelter around her. She was about to be shot. Am I going to die? Mine's face was full of unwillingness. She was not afraid of death, but if she could, mine hoped to drag Cyril Ubiquitas to be buried with her. After all, Dustless had helped her and saved her life. If she couldn't help him take revenge, she would have no face to meet Dustless in the underworld. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this time, a black shadow stood in front of mine without hesitation, protecting her like a shield. Gil. Staring at the purple girl in front of her, mine was very moved. Clang, 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 clang. Gil held the scissor-shaped Taigu and blocked it in front of her. All the bullets fell on the Taigu. Because Gil's Taigu was extremely hard, it could be used as a shield. Damn it! Celia Ubiquitas saw the situation and scolded. Looking at the two people who were close, she felt extremely unlucky. After all, she almost killed mine. At the same time, she hated Gil. Since you like to meddle in other people's business, go to hell. Celia Ubiquitas screamed with a distorted face. She opened her mouth and shot countless bullets at the same time. Bang, bang, bang. The result was the same as before. The bullet attack was blocked. Your good luck seems to be used up. I'm going to avenge that guy now. Mine stepped forward. The muzzle of the Taigu pumpkin had been aimed at Celia Ubiquitas. Haha. When Celia Ubiquitas saw this, he revealed a devilish smile and said coldly, "Before that, please take a look behind the two of you." Gil and mine were both stunned. They turned their heads at the same time. A black shadow was staring at them with murderous intent. Ow, ow. Celia Ubiquita's Taigu roared like a beast. Its body became dozens of times bigger. Then his strong and powerful big hand caught mine and Gil instantly. Damn it. All this happened so suddenly that Gil and mine were still in a daze. When they turned around, Taigu, who had become bigger, had already caught the two. Ha ha! I finally succeeded. Justice triumphed over evil. The unscrupulous laughter lingered in the black night sky and did not disappear for a long time. Celia Ubiquita's cheeks raised a smile of victory. It was a great victory to kill 3 members of the night raid. Master, I finally avenged you. I successfully killed 3 members of the night raid. Damn it, Celia Ubiquitas is so despicable and insidious. He deliberately let the biotype Taigu pretend to be dead. In fact, he was looking for opportunities to attack us. Damn it, we were fooled. Mine struggled hard, but found that it did not work at all. The strength of the Taigu was too strong. Gil could not escape, let alone mine who was weaker. The two looked pale for a while. Taigu, crush these 2 evil criminals for me. Chapter 16:22. The biotype Taigu increased its strength. Mine and Gil immediately screamed in pain. The two were sweating, and the pain made their faces as pale as paper. Crush them to avenge the master. Celia Ubiquitas, whose cheeks were distorted, roared like a crazy ghost. A few days ago, the night attack assassinated her master, Captain Oka of the Special Zones Police Force. Therefore, Celia Ubiquitas hated the night attack. She could not wait to drink their blood and swallow their bones. She came out every night, and today, she finally encountered the night attack. Oh, oh, oh. The biotype Taiga nodded slightly after receiving the order, then it was angry and increased the power output. When it was about to completely crush the 2 women, a sharp light broke the situation. Pucci, Pucci. The light penetrated the arms of the biotype Taigu. Two crisp sounds were heard in succession. Coco's arms fell. Gil and mine were able to escape from the cage, and they were relaxed. Who dares to stop the justice from defeating the evil? Unforgivable. When he saw this, Seliu Ubiquitas flew into a rage, and his sharp tone became several times louder. He was like a malicious spirit that had come to claim his life, and his scarlet eye sockets were filled with a bloody glow. The veins of blood that were like spiderwebs spread throughout his entire eye sockets, and his entire body was filled with a raging and ominous aura. Everyone's gaze swept over. Under the night sky, that faintly discernible thin figure was exceptionally conspicuous. "You are dustless." Mine and Gil were even more anxious. They were grateful to the Savior, but when they saw the lazy face, the two women were stunned. "Don't show such an unexpected expression. This is the imperial capital, and we are attacking at night. The people who can save you are naturally our own people. Will those Empire soldiers be kind enough to save you too?" Dustless asked calmly as if nothing happened, and at the same time, he glanced at the bloody biotype Taigu Coco and whispered, "It is just a tool, but it can also regenerate quickly and even pretend to be dead. It is very capable, and it is so humane." On the surface, Dustless was praising, but in fact his tone was as cold as frost, and he flicked a light from his finger, and it went straight to the biotype Taigu. Laser! A dazzling light shot out and flew to Coco's head. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the night sky shone brightly. Following that, a bright flame soared into the sky. Coco's head was instantly destroyed, charred by the scorching wave of fire. "You bastard!" Seliu Ubiquitas' eyes were about to burst. Originally, he hated Dustless to the bone. According to the news from his death, he was the culprit who killed Oka. Now he also crushed her Taigu. The anger in her heart had already reached an intolerable level. This guy has already been twisted. There's no saving him. Dustless's face was as cold as ice as his fingertips glowed with a high-density light. His finger was aimed at the head of Seliu Ubiquitas. Although this guy looked pretty good, it did not mean that Dustless would be compassionate. Dustless was not a man who could not move when he saw beauty. It was even more impossible for him to be merciful to Seliu Ubiquitas. This kind of person was brainwashed, and her mind was poisoned. Only by sending her to heaven could she be saved. Go to hell. Remember, the person who killed you is called Dustless. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the voice fell, Dustless flicked a dazzling light from his finger. "I won't be killed so easily, and even if I die, I will drag you, this group of evil criminals, to be buried with me. You evil people all deserve to die." Seliu Ubiquitas roared like a madman. He hated Dustless and the others to the core. His resentment had reached an unbelievable level. He couldn't wait to drag Dustless and the others down to hell. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the face of the light, Seliu Ubiquitas' reaction was very agile. She actually came over miraculously and opened her mouth to shoot a lot of bullets. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless's body was penetrated again, but nothing happened. The damaged wound was quickly repaired by the ability of the glinting fruit. Damn it, damn it. Why does justice lose to this evil person? Clenching her fists, Seliu Ubiquitas was unwilling to give up. Why? This kind of shallow reason seems to be very simple. Slowly walking toward Seliu Ubiquitas, looking down at the frustrated girl, Dustless said coldly, "Because your justice is not as strong as my strength. The so-called justice is determined by the winner. So, I am the winner, I am the justice. Instead, you are an evil person. Then I will destroy you with brute force. I don't care so much, Xiaoka. Use that trick." Seliu Ubiquitas glanced at the biotype Taigu Xiaoka with madness in his eyes. His words were determined to destroy everything. "Oh, you still have tricks?" Faint ripples appeared in the calm eyes. Dustless whispered, "Such a positive tone. You seem to have the despair of death, which slightly makes me look at you differently." Ayo, 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 ayo. After receiving Seliu's order, the biotype Taiga Xiaoka immediately took the lead. Then he seemed to have taken hormones. His body expanded several times in an instant, and his white body also changed greatly. Instead, it was replaced by blood-black hair, and the eyeballs that were as big as copper were also full of rage. Xiaoka's strength will increase after using fury. This time Seliu regained her confidence and said proudly to Dustless, but she did not know that this guy had disappeared. You're just SOSO. The next moment, when Dustless appeared again, his feet stepped on Xiaoka's head. Chapter 16:23. What a fast speed. Gil and mine looked at each other. Their expressions were a little numb. It was not that they had never seen the market, but Dustless was too fast, and he disappeared in a flash. When he appeared again, he had already appeared on the head of the biological dog-type Taigu. Dustless, this guy. I thought he was dead just now, and I was sad for him once. Now it seems that he's still alive. I really don't deserve it. Mine squeezed out the crystal water stains from the corner of her eyes, and she was about to cry. Although she was dissatisfied with Dustless on the mouth, her expression was smiling. Obviously, she did not mean what she said. Xiaoka, crush him for me. Being provoked by an evil person again and again, Seleucid Ubiquitas, who could not bear it, had a face as black as coal, and he could not help but completely explode. Ayo, 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 ayo. The violent dog-type Taigu Xiaoka roared, looking up at Dustless on the head, and grabbed him with his big hand. Pucci, the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka, once again grabbed the body of Dustless. But before he had time to be happy, he suddenly found that the texture he caught was not right. It was good that he caught Dustless, but it was no different from catching the air. His body was very ethereal, and there was no substance. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A large number of dense flashes were condensed at the foot again. Dustless glanced at the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka coldly, and then the small foot that was raised high did not hesitate to fall. Speed is power. Have you been kicked by the speed of light? Speed of light kick. The shining big foot that was like a layer of gold fell on the head of the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka mercilessly. His head suddenly sunk. Kakaka. Especially the most terrible place of the eyes. It left a burning footprint directly. Boom, boom, boom. The dog-type creature, Taigu Xiaoka, was kicked away by Dustless for dozens of meters away in a moment. The body smashed several big trees in succession. Even the ground was pulled out of a long ditch. Every part of his body was badly mutilated. Ayo, 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 ayo. Although he was out of breath, the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka still stood up tenaciously. The bloody eyes like a meatball stared at Silver without slowing down. It's useless. Seeing that Coco was still standing up, Seliu Ubiquitas heaved a sigh of relief. The power of that kick just now was really shocking. She even suspected that it could destroy a mountain with one kick. The biological Taigu can be restored by any attack. After being trampled on a few times, Sailor Ubiquita's arrogance and confidence returned to normal. TSK. You can recover from any attack. I advise you to speak less of such arrogant and ignorant words in the future. It will only make you seem more ignorant. Dustless retorted with a sneer. What do you mean? Celia Ubiquitas was stunned. She stared at Dustless unhappily. She understood that there was a hidden meaning in his words. To put it simply, this dog-shaped Taigu is still alive. It is completely my kindness. After all, I'm also a sensitive person. You have a deep relationship with this dog. It would be too heartless to kill it instantly. You can't talk about the old days. I am not the kind of heartless man. Dustless continued to explain casually. That's why I let the two of you fight for a while longer and communicate with each other before you die. You should thank me for being merciful. Dustless said frankly, not caring about the bulging blue veins on Cyril Ubiquitas' forehead. Pucci, Gil, and mine couldn't help but spurt out their saliva. They stared at Dustless gloomily. This guy was too annoying. The meaning of these words was that if you could still breathe, you should thank me for not killing you. Little dog, tear him up for me. Celiu Ubiquitas ordered with a green face. If she listened to Dustless's nonsense, she would be annoyed to death. Ow, ow. The dog-shaped taigu that was accused shook all over. It was like a whistling hurricane. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult to catch it with human eyes. It's so fast, Mine and Gil whispered in shock. Such a huge body, it moved so fast that they could not see it at all. This was also the fundamental reason why they were caught just now. It's so slow. This fleeting speed fell into the eyes of Dustless, but it was as slow as a turtle crawling. There was no highlight. Phew, phew, phew. Suddenly, there was a fierce hurricane behind him. Dustless did not even turn his head. He did not need to look to know that it was the dog-shaped taigu. Its movement was too big, it was difficult to not find it. To assassinate a person, first of all, it must be done quietly. Like this, the evil spirit was all over the sky. The movement was too fierce. It could easily locate the position of the enemy. Shinra Tensei. His closed eyes abruptly opened, and an incomparably violent, repulsive force erupted out. Kakaka. Because it was too close to Dustless, the dog-shaped taigu was also affected, but its body was not bounced off, but it was directly crushed by the violent repulsion. One of the glass-like spheres was also crushed. Isn't this a thorough death? The core is also destroyed. The dog will definitely die. Taking a glance at Cyril Ubiquita's, Dustless asked indifferently, "You should also sleep forever." Celiu Ubiquita's heart was completely distorted. Her whole body was transformed into a weapon. It was impossible to tame her. In this case, he could only destroy her ruthlessly. Tsukuyami. Dustless glanced at Celiu Ubiquita's gently. The majestic spiritual power invaded her mind. He did not torture her. He just destroyed her nervous system and annihilated it instantly. Celiu Ubiquita's eyes were empty, and she immediately looked at the deep void with infatuation. Then she left the world unwillingly with relief. Chapter 16:24. Is that taiga dog finished? What a pity. Mine and Gil's side, in addition to the necessary task of assassination, the night raid also had the secondary job of collecting taigu. The taigu that killed Zank a while ago was sent to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. The taigu of Celiu Ubiquita's did not even leave the body, and there was only a large pool of blood on the ground. It's good that you are fine. Phil revealed a naturally silly smile. His gaze, when looking at Dustless, had an additional hint of strangeness. The targets that should be eliminated have been eliminated. Let's retreat. Stretching out, Dustless yawned and took the lead to disappear into the darkness. You don't have the demeanor of a peerless master at all. Mine shook her head and immediately glanced at Hill. She just caught the obscure expression. Although she didn't know what it meant, Mine didn't know why she felt uncomfortable in her heart. At the moment, in the palace in another place. Three beasts, I have a new task for you. On the ground covered with green grass, Isdeth stared at the three people who were half kneeling in front of her and explained, "Recently, many people are rebelling against the minister. You go to pretend to be the night raid and kill all the civil officials who talk nonsense." Understood, Lady Isdeth. The three people all answered respectfully. "Well, you can go back." Isdeth waved her white and tender arms and turned her head with a little tiredness. Recently, she had been crazily training herself, and the time to sleep could be counted with fingers. That, Lady Isdeth. At this time, Leva, one of the three beasts, suddenly said, "Lady Isdeth, are you going to deal with Dustless? We can finally get rid of the shame." Not only Leva was very excited, but the rest of Nu and Didos were also very excited. After all, Dustless had seriously destroyed their physical and mental health, and they had not recovered until now. "Very good. I can feel your high will." Isdeth smiled and nodded, and immediately her eyes dimmed. "However, let's forget about Dustless for the time being. If we go to trouble him, the people who will be killed should be us." Isdeth remembered the battle with Dustless and whispered, "But it is also because of that guy. My strength has improved a lot now, and the old stubborn guy also promised to deal with him with me." Old stubborn guy? Leva and the other two were all stunned. Soon after, they said in surprise in unison, "Could it be the other strongest general of the Empire, General Bud? If he is willing to join forces with this death, it will be easy to take down Dustless. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Those people in the Imperial capital have been very busy recently. At the base of a night raid, the boss Najinda carefully read the information sent, frowning deeply. Her expression was very cautious and serious, and even clearly worried. As for the other members of the night raid, they were eating breakfast. Does this death want to force us to come out and kill us all? After a while, Boss Najinda put out the cigarette in her hand, showing a headache. Recently, many civil officials of the Empire have been killed. When they left the night raid leaflets and wanted to pour dirty water on us. Dustless recalled the incident while eating breakfast, and at the same time, he did not forget to give a thumbs up to Scarlet Eye. This guy was really good at cooking meat. It must be his death is doing. She wants to force us out and kill us in one fell swoop. Lee and I nodded in agreement while wolfing down the food. But Dustless stared at Tatsumi and Bullet, who were still training outside the window, with a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth, and a raging light flashed in the depths of his eyes. I can take this opportunity to kill Bullet, so that this guy won't meddle in other people's business and hinder me every time. We planned to kill Tatsumi a few times. Bullet, who was in the way, often came out to mess things up. He could use his death as hands to kill this stinky bug. We should stop his death immediately during the night raid. Otherwise, more and more civil officials will be killed by her. Those civil officials with conscience are the elites of the country in the future. They must not be lost. Dustless suddenly stood up and said loudly in an impassioned tone. However, when Dustless's words fell, the scene was silent, and they all looked at him. Dustless, are you sick? Scarlet, I couldn't help but say anxiously. If you are sick, you should give up this mission. Everyone will give you more rewards. You usually don't care about those civil officials. Why are you so concerned about this incident? You must be sick. Blinking her eyes, Scarlet, I stared at Dustless with concern. At the same time, she put her forehead on Dustless's forehead. After feeling that his body temperature was normal, she strangely said to herself, "It seems that you don't have a fever. Ahem. It's my responsibility to protect those civil officials." Dustless patted his chest awkwardly. Scarlet, I probably thought that his brain was damaged. Dustless usually avoided when he heard about protecting those civil officials. He often pretended to be sick or refused for various reasons. This time, he took the initiative to attack, which really made the people of the night raid feel puzzled. I can't say that I intend to use this opportunity to kill Bullet. Dustless was secretly depressed by the strange eyes of the crowd. He simply chose to learn from Leonette and eat, ignoring the strange eyes of others. Chapter 1625. For the strange eyes of several people, Dustless simply ignored them, and then began to plan how to kill Tatsumi and Bullet. These two bugs were wandering around all day, which was really disgusting. Don't talk about those boring trifles. There's a big event that needs to be dealt with now. Although the boss Najinda was also quite strange, she did not ask much. Although everyone was a killer and had to obey her orders on the surface, everyone had their own privacy, and there was no need to delve into it. According to the latest intelligence, Isteth must have a new plan to attack us at night. Najinda sighed gloomily, knowing that this was Isteth's conspiracy, but she still got involved. This feeling was particularly uncomfortable. Recently, there is a cruise ship with civil servants, which is also the target of Isteth. There are many civil servants with conscience on the cruise ship, and there are also enemies of Minister Ernest. It is estimated that Isteth will not let go of the target easily. So, this mission let me, Tatsumi, and Bullet carry it out together. Before the boss Najinda finished speaking, Dustless directly interrupted her speech. 3 people. Najinda frowned slightly, with a little hesitation, and finally decided, Isteth is aggressive, and she will not stop until she achieves her goal. Maybe she will send a lot of masters to sneak in. You 3 are too few, so this mission will be completed by Tatsumi and Bullet, Dustless, and Akame. Why does Akame participate in this kind of thing every time? Dustless was secretly depressed. According to the nature of Akame, would she let him kill Bullet? The answer was definitely impossible. Although he had a good relationship with Akame, Akame valued the so-called companions very much and would never allow Dustless to kill the so-called companions. Let's wait and see. Looking up, he stared at Bullet and Tatsumi, who were sweating outside the window. He saw that the two were talking and laughing happily. And the most ridiculous thing was that Bullet showed his love to Tatsumi from time to time. Dustless felt goosebumps all over his body. Originally, this matter has nothing to do with you, but you have to participate in it. You can't blame me for being ruthless, Bulla. Dustless muttered in his heart. He was only targeting Tatsumi, but Bulla and Tatsumi had a good relationship and often hindered Dustless, so he could only kill this eyesore. By the way, when you sneak onto the cruise ship, make sure to dress up a little. The boss Najinda reminded, whether it was Dustless, Akame, Tatsumi, or Bullet, the four of them were wanted by the whole city. Dressing up could save unnecessary trouble. On the sparkling surface of the sea, a huge cruise ship was slowly moving forward. Celebrities from all over the world were gathered on the ship. At first glance, there were prominent figures everywhere. This is the first time I've dressed up like this. On the cruise ship where people from all over the world gathered, Dustless and Akame stood together. The two of them were dressed very differently from before. They wore matching couple outfits. Wuchen was wearing a black tuxedo. His slightly messy long hair was specially cut short this time. His deep eyes were as dazzling as the bright moon. They were embedded in his eye sockets and shone brightly. Dustless also respected Najinda's script and tried his best to act as Akame's husband. He had an elegant smile on his face. When he met people who passed by him, he would show a charming smile. Ridiculous. Why can Dustless and Akame pretend to be husband and wife and sneak on a ship, but I have to be responsible for doing odd jobs? Damn, it's really a bad year. Tatsumi, who was wiping the table in the distance, was like a jealous jar that had been knocked over, and he was complaining to himself. Don't be discouraged, Tatsumi. At this time, a stranger patted Tatsumi's shoulder, and he was shocked. Tatsumi looked around, but there was no one around. Is it my illusion? After looking around twice, Tatsumi retracted his gaze. Stupid Tatsumi, look clearly, it's me, Bullet. He patted Tatsumi's shoulder again, and the mysterious voice sounded again. Brother? Tatsumi was stunned when he heard the words, and he looked around with his eyes wide open. Don't look with your eyes, feel with your heart. This is one of the abilities of my ghost haunting. It can be transparent. Bullet explained in a low voice. Is this the Taigu? It's also powerful. Tatsumi suddenly showed an envious expression when he heard the words. Such a powerful ability was rare in the world. Tatsumi saw it and remembered it in his mind. By the way, when Dustless and Akame sneaked onto the ship, why didn't anyone check them? When I just said that I was a handyman, I went through a lot of interrogation. Tatsumi complained with dissatisfaction, with an unlucky expression, looking at Akame and Dustless who were dancing in the distance. He was envious and jealous. They were all members of the night raid. Why was the gap so big? Dustless and Akame pretended to be husband and wife, while Tatsumi miserably pretended to be a cook and a handyman to sneak in. They looked like husband and wife. Leaning against the cabin, he looked straight at Wu Chun and Chi Tong. Wu Chun was elegant and graceful, while Chi Tong had dressed up meticulously. Her appearance was even more soul-stirring. Her skin was fair and beautiful, and her facial features were flawless, like a masterpiece carved by the heavens. The two of them displayed their superb acting skills, and the people around them were less wary of them. Damn it, I'm always the one who gets into trouble. Why do I have to team up with my brother? He is gay. Looking at Bullet, who stared at himself affectionately, Tatsumi almost vomited blood. People were really annoying. Chapter 16:26. Bullet's eyes were deep and bright, filled with an invisible flame. He stared at the short Tatsumi, and Bullet's eyes were enough to melt him easily. Seeing this, Tatsumi's heart beat faster, and he looked up at Bullet in horror. He used to think that Dustless was dangerous, but compared with Bullet, Dustless was too cute and kind in some aspects. A long and noble tune rang out in the air. Following that, the previously bustling ship instantly became abnormally noisy and filled with terrified voices. Damn, my head hurts. What's going on? My head hurts too. Damn it. Could it be Minister Ernest's subordinate? Everyone, cover your ears quickly. Don't listen to this melody. The tourists on the ship suddenly screamed in horror. The screams were full of endless pain, like headless flies bumping around. Everyone showed a painful expression and was very sad. Plop. Some people couldn't resist the pain, and they directly jumped into the water and chose to kill themselves. At the same time, on the other side, Chi-Tong and Dustless also deliberately fainted on the ground. Chi-Tong's whole body was tightly pressed on Dustless. Because of the distance, Dustless inevitably touched some places that should not be touched, and so did Chi-Tong. It's just acting. You don't have to be so professional. Dustless opened his eyes, and half of Chi-Tong's beautiful face was directly pressed on Dustless's neck, and he could feel the hot touch. Don't talk, continue to pretend to be unconscious, and when those people come out, we will ambush them unexpectedly. Chi-Tong opened her eyes and glanced at Dustless, then closed them again, and then pretended to be dead on Dustless's neck and did not move, which was very professional. It's a waste of a professional like you to not make movies in this world. Dustless stared at Chi-Tong, dumbfounded. Although this girl said it calmly and simply, her tone seemed that she did not care about being taken advantage of by Dustless at all. However, because Chi-Tong's whole body was pressed on him, Dustless could still feel Chi-Tong's accelerated heartbeat, and in fact, he was also very nervous. What a pity. It was undeniable that Scarlet Eye's plan wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. He deliberately pretended to be unconscious and waited for the enemy to relax before dealing a fatal blow. However, in this world, no matter what time it was, there would always be some troublemakers. Damn it, what's going on? Where did this melody come from? It's so powerful that it's swaying when it walks. Tatsumi covered his head. His head was also painful, as if it was being torn apart. He was dizzy and walked around like a dizzy duck. He couldn't even distinguish the most basic directions. There's actually someone who can persevere. Not bad. I thought that all the people on this ship would be wiped out. I didn't expect that there would be a fish that escaped the net. Not bad. However, it is also because you are extraordinary that it shows that you are not simple. Kid, you should be the one who attacked at night. The three beast men walked out of the cabin. The one who spoke was one of the three beast men, the former General Riva. But now he had become as death as lackey. Did the three of you do it? The melody stopped. Tatsumi looked at the three people in front of him with a pale face. His shining eyes were dotted with stars. Oh, do you still have a strength to talk? It's really extraordinary. One of the three beast men, the blonde kid, was called Nyo. She looked at the unyielding Tatsumi with surprise and said, "You can still burst out with such a strong will. You are definitely not an ordinary human. There is no doubt that you are a member of the Night Raid. With the existence of Tatsumi, I know that your plan will fail." Dustless ridiculed Scarlet Eye with a smile. His voice was as soft as a mosquito, and only Scarlet Eye could hear it. Is it? Hearing this, Scarlet Eye's performance was mediocre. She looked at Tatsumi, who wanted to fight with the three beast men, and suddenly showed an expression of appreciation. Tatsumi is not as weak as you think. Then you watch carefully. Dustless also stared at Tatsumi, who was confronting the three beast men with interest. He really didn't know where this kid got the courage to 1v3. You scum, disappear. Tatsumi held a wide and thick sword in both hands. Immediately, he stomped his feet on the ground. His body suddenly jumped up and swept to the sky. Finally, he slashed at the three beast men with the force of falling from the sky. Oomph. Levis snorted when he saw the situation. He immediately rushed out and shouted, "Where did this brat come from? Go home and play house. You are full of flaws." Bang, bang, bang. As soon as his voice fell, The miserable Tatsumi suddenly flew out. He was kicked more than 10 meters away by Leva. Tatsumi's head was on the ground, and his buttocks were sticking out miserably. He was in an extremely embarrassing situation. Pucci, Dustless, who couldn't help laughing, glanced at Scarlet Eye. This guy was also disappointed. Scarlet Eye originally saw that Tatsumi used to practice so hard. His strength must have improved, but according to the current situation, the essence of Tatsumi's embroidered pillow had not changed. This kid looks frustrated. At first glance, he is the kind of person who'll die early. It is useless to catch him. Nyo, quickly send this eyesore clown to heaven. Looking at his face, I know that he is a real waste. Leva ordered with great disdain. Tatsumi was born with the expression of passerby. Even Leva couldn't extract any information from him. Chapter 16:27. You know you are useless just by looking at your face? This sentence was like a nightmare that could not be dismissed, lingering in Tatsumi's mind for a long time. What's the use of looking at my face? What's more, how do you know that I am possessed by the god of misfortune? Tatsumi's self-esteem was challenged by Leva. He quickly stood up and said sarcastically, "With your level, the elder brother can easily solve it." Elder brother? Is it the guy Dustless? A cunning look flashed through his eyes. Leva asked calmly, deliberately stimulating Tatsumi's nerves. "You're not even worthy to carry shoes for Dustless. After all, we have fought with him. I still feel that it is a dream to be alive. My elder brother is Bullet." Tatsumi retorted with a red face. He and Dustless had deep resentment. How could he recognize such a person as his elder brother? Didos knew. It seems that in addition to this guy, there are other people on the ship. You two go to search carefully. They are likely to be disguised. Remember to touch everyone's face. Leva said to the other two beasts. He originally felt strange. Tatsumi was so weak. How could they send such a small person to attack at night? There must be other helpers. Is this Tatsumi's head broken by the door? Dustless, who deliberately pretended to be dead, said speechlessly. He had already seen Nu and Didos coming over. It was only a matter of time to remove his and Akame's disguise. There are indeed some problems. This time Akame also stood on Dustless's side. She did not defend Tatsumi. Tatsumi's behavior was clearly to cheat his teammates. "Let's do it, Akame." Glancing at Akame, who was lying on his body, Dustless's eyes flashed a cold light. "Do it quickly." Akame nodded. Under Dustless's incredible and surprised gaze, Akame's right arm slowly stretched her trousers. Then she directly untied it and took out her taigu. Murasame. I had no choice. This banquet doesn't allow anyone to bring weapons. I had no choice but to come up with another plan. Chitong looked at Dustless in embarrassment. "But there's no need to hide it in your pants," Dustless complained in his heart. He was too lazy to dwell on this issue. "Let's do it. They're coming." Looking closely, Didos and Nia were gradually approaching Dustless and Scarlet Eye. Clang, 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 clang. Chitong suddenly unsheathed his long saber, and a cold light shot out. Seeing the right time, Chitong turned into an afterimage and shot out, crossing a distance of several meters in an instant. Pucci, Didos, one of the three beast men, was killed by Scarlet Pupil in an instant. Swish! Swish! Chitong did not stop there. Instead, he looked at another target, an Ai-Wu. "You want to kill me?" "No way." The death of his teammate gave Ai-Wu a chance to catch his breath. At the same time, he caught sight of Chitong pouncing on him. He immediately used his special flute to block the incoming attack. Clang, 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 clang. Sparks splashed in the void. Chitong and Ai-Wu were entangled. Although Ai-Wu was prepared, he was still sent flying by the brute force of Chitong's attack. Bang, bang. Crack, crack. Ai-Wu's body slammed heavily on the cabin. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This guy is so strong. Although Chitong had injured Ai-Wu, he obviously did not have enough strength to kill him. However, this was normal. After all, Chitong was not a strength-type player like Bullet. It seems like I don't need to do anything. Seeing this, Dustless decisively chose to continue playing dead. Creak. However, at this moment, the soldiers hidden in the cabin all rushed out. An extremely unexpected figure suddenly walked out with his head held high. This guy's here too? Seeing the majestic figure with golden hair, Dustless frowned slightly. This person had a majestic appearance. His face was meticulous, and his face was full of majesty. He looked very domineering. General Butte. Chi-Tong's eyes were full of caution and spoke out the identity of this person. The person in front of him was another great general with the same name as this death Butte. His strength was beyond doubt. Since he could sit in the position of a great general and have the same name as this death, he must be a strong man with enough strength. However, what Dustless cared about was not this. Blinking his eyes, Dustless's closed eyes opened again, and there was a puzzled expression in his eyes. Why is this old guy here? So after that, then he thought about it a little and felt relieved. General Bude used his own power to protect a lot of conscientious civil officials. These people are probably his people. It's understandable to protect these civil officials. They are all political enemies of Minister Ernest. Dustless, who understood, was relieved. He stared at General Bude with a slightly playful expression. The current situation seems to be extremely unfavorable for Chi-Tong and others. The appearance of General Bude changed the whole situation at once. Where is Bullet? If he doesn't come out, Tatsumi will die. Observation Haki quietly spread out. Dustless tried to find Bullet's breath, and soon this guy floated into his eyes. He was quite surprised to find that this guy was beside him. This old guy isn't trying to assassinate me, is he? Curious, Dustless did not take the initiative to talk to Tatsumi, but continued to play dead, as if he saw nothing. However, Bullet did not buy it. Why are you deliberately targeting Tatsumi? We should be companions. The voice full of dissatisfaction rang in Dustless's ears. The voice was so low that only he could barely hear it. Others could not hear Bullet's hoarse voice. Chapter 16:28. When Bullet's words fell, Dustless opened his eyes. His eyes were slightly surprised. He sighed at the greatness of gay love. He didn't expect that Bullet would fall out with him for Tatsumi. In fact, there is no reason. I just feel uncomfortable looking at that naive kid all day long. Dustless said an answer that made Bullet angry. This was also a common problem of Dustless. People with protagonist aura were often very annoying. He always sneered at the kind of thinking that his own idea was right and others were wrong. Bullet, who was stunned by Dustless's nonsensical answer, was furious. Dustless, for such a ridiculous answer, you deliberately targeted Tatsumi? You even almost killed him several times. You think it's ridiculous? Wu-chan lazily glanced at Bullet and then shook his head gently. Sure enough, we're not on the same path. I have nothing to say to you. Since we're not on the same path, I won't see you off. Same. Glancing coldly at Dustless, Bullet flicked his sleeves and left. It seemed that he was going to find trouble with Leva. At the same time, Bullet's resolute and decisive declaration echoed in Dustless's ears. No matter what, I will protect Tatsumi. Don't ask me why. Just because he called me Big Brother just now. This guy is looking for death. Is he deliberately making an enemy of me? Staring at Bullet's back, if possible, Dustless really didn't want to kill him. Although this guy was gay, he was still a good person. Why did he have to protect Tatsumi, the Jinx? It's time for the disguise mission to end. Staring at the robust figure approaching Scarlet Pupil, it was General Bude. His majestic height was several times larger than Scarlet Pupil. It was obvious who was at a disadvantage. It's really sad. Geniuses like you can become the future pillars of the Empire. General Bude walked in front of Scarlet Pupil with great oppression. Seeing Scarlet Pupil's firm eyes, he smacked his lips and sighed very sentimentally. But his eyes were full of killing intent when he looked at Scarlet Pupil. If people like you aren't killed as soon as possible, you'll be a huge problem in the future. Great General Budo restrained his emotions, and they were replaced by endless coldness. Cunning old fox. Scarlet, I snorted warily. Perhaps Grand General Bude already knew that the three beasts had infiltrated the ship. The reason why he didn't rush to stop the three beasts from killing the civil officials was because he had the same plan as the three beasts to lure the night raid out to court death. It's not that I'm cunning, it's just that you guys are too immature. With a look of devastation in his eyes, Great General Bude crossed several meters in a single step and arrived in front of Chi Tong in the blink of an eye. His mighty fist smashed down. So fast, Akame's pupils constricted. After a moment of shock, she hurriedly took out her katana to block the attack. Bang, bang, bang. The result was just as Dustless had guessed. Chi Tong was forced to retreat repeatedly. In terms of swordsmanship, Scarlet might be good, but in terms of strength, she was much weaker. She was sent flying by General Bude's punch, her face pale. The old guy's strength is not small. Dustless looked at General Bude in surprise. The Taigu of this old guy was also an extremely top existence. It could control the powerful natural forces such as thunder and lightning. Not only was his speed strong, but also his strength. Scarlet, I could not occupy any advantage. What a strong power. Feeling the overwhelming power of General Bude, Scarlet Eye, whose face changed slightly, said to herself cautiously. The eyes that usually looked at her own people as gentle as water were wise and bright at the moment, trying to capture the loopholes of General Bude. Maybe you can completely surpass me in a few years, but as for now, General Bude slowly approached Scarlet Eye. Seeing that she could still stand firm, he gave Scarlet Eye a look of appreciation. He used all his strength in the blow just now. Now I have the advantage of age after all. Go to hell, young man. General Bude once again appeared behind Scarlet Eye in a flash. The exaggerated and abnormal speed of thunder and lightning was revealed. Scarlet Eye didn't even have time to react. The reaction speed of human beings was always fundamental to lightning. After all, not everyone had observation haki and many dojutsu like Dustless. Oh no! Noticing the sudden appearance of General Bude, Scarlet Eye secretly cursed. She turned her head to look. General Bude's strong and powerful fist had already smashed to her head. She would definitely die if she was hit directly. Wansho Tensei. At the critical moment, Dustless did not hesitate to stand up and disturb the situation. His right hand gently grabbed into the void. Scarlet Eye's body flew into Dustless's arms uncontrollably. Is this gravity? Squinting his eyes and carefully feeling the power that had not dissipated in the void, General Bude was quite surprised. His eyes could not help but follow the source. Among the 48 Taigu, it seemed that there was no weapon that controlled gravity. Little old man Bud, you're already so old, yet you're bullying a teenage girl. The word shameless is tailor-made for you. General Bude heard Dustless's harsh ridicule. He could not help but raise his eyebrows. After staring at Dustless for a while, he said in a very surprised tone, "You are really similar to the dead prince. You can simply pass off as the real one. It's none of my business." Dustless heard the words and disdained. He was not interested in the so-called prince, but Scarlet Eye's eyes flashed with amazement. She looked at Dustless with her eyes full of brilliance. It seemed that she had thought a good plan. This kid is the Dustless that Esteth said. On the surface, he is indeed extraordinary, and his ability is quite strange. No wonder Esteth wants to join forces with me to deal with him. General Bude's eyes were fixed on Dustless's head. He could not help but nod with satisfaction. He could feel that Dustless was extraordinary just by looking at his face. Even if he knew his identity as a general, he was very calm. Chapter 1629. General Budo's eyes widened. He looked at Dustless as if he was looking at a dead person. The dead eyes made everyone feel numb. The atmosphere of the whole ship was extremely depressing. This old fox, Leva of the three beasts, saw General Budo and immediately understood the cause and effect. He recalled that it was no wonder that he could board this big ship safely. It was most likely that this strong old man acquiesced. He not only wanted to annihilate the members of the night raid, but also wanted to kill the three beasts. He could even use this opportunity to attack his death and kill Minister Ernest. You who want to destroy the peace of the Empire, this time I will let you try the sanction of my Taiga Thunder God's wrath. Admalek, General Budo, shook his thick arms, and suddenly there was a dull explosion. His arms were wrapped with heavy iron piles, and the strength and power of the attack were bound to increase. Dustless was okay. People like Akame or Bulit would not be able to bear the consequences if they were hit. Bring it on. Turning a deaf ear to General Budo's demonstration, Dustless just hooked his thumb contemptuously. You want to die? Seeing this, Grand General Bud immediately launched a powerful attack. His whole body emitted lightning, crackling and flashing, and collided head-on with a straight light. Boom, boom, boom. Even because the speed of General Budo's running was too exaggerated, the ship swayed slightly with his steps. Every time the blond old man took a step, the wooden deck would be crushed by him. What an amazing momentum. Is this the combat power of the Empire's strongest general? It's really strong. Isteth is also at the same level as Budo. Akame was secretly shocked. Unless it was a life-or-death fight, she had no chance to win. Fortunately, we still have Dustless on our side. The situation is 2 against 2. It is fair. Akame's tight face was relieved, and she smiled easily. God was always fair. Armament hockey hardening. The white arms suddenly turned dark black, and Wu Chen also attacked without the slightest bit of fear. Boom, boom, boom. Their fists collided, and a powerful shock wave spread out. Tatsumi was caught off guard, and Akame and the others were forced to retreat. Bang! Scarlet Pupil was fine. After all, her strength was worthy of recognition. On the contrary, Tatsumi was not so lucky. His body was thrown out and smashed on the deck. The pain was unbearable. Although his body was in pain, Tatsumi's mental blow was more serious. Can I really reach that level? Tatsumi was at a loss. For the first time, he doubted Bullet. He always felt that this guy was fooling him. After all, Dustless's strength was unreliable. Not to mention fighting with Dustless, he even had to stay far away from the battle. If he was not careful, he would be affected. Swish! Swish! A black shadow roared and attacked Tatsumi, who was in a daze. He was punched again. Bang! Tatsumi, who was suffering unspeakably, spat out a mouthful of blood again. The smell of blood in his mouth assailed his nostrils, and the blood stained his entire gums. You dare to be distracted while fighting with me. Are you an idiot, or are you confident in your own strength? Leva's sarcasm was not concealed. He sneered at Tatsumi and sneered unceremoniously. Is Bullet's head rusty? During the time when you joined the night raid, it seems that your mind and spirit have fallen. I really don't know why he values a mediocre person like you. Bullet is really ignorant. Leva curled his lips and unscrupulously despised Tatsumi. Originally, he thought that even if Tatsumi's strength was not good, he had some skills. At least, he was worthy of others' respect. After testing a few more times, he found that Tatsumi was just an embroidered pillow. No, I understand the reason why Bullet values you. If you think about it carefully, you actually have your own strengths. No wonder Bullet will treat you differently. At this moment, Leva changed the thread of discussion. His eyes flashed with light. He obviously thought of something and took back his words. Really? What's so different about me? Tatsumi was also interested. Originally, he thought that he was an ordinary person and there was nothing special about him. But after listening to Leva, he also understood that he was a person who was pitted by God. Leva smiled and immediately grinned. You are very lucky. After all, luck is also a part of strength. And there's another thing that I admire very much. You could take a beating. How many times have you been knocked down to the ground and it's difficult for you to stand up? How hard is your skin? After that, Leva showed a look of, I'm not as good as you. Tatsumi's face was red and he was angry. Was this an advantage? Was this a compliment to him? This was worse than pointing at his nose and swearing. There's no need to argue with a small character like you. Glancing at him coldly, Tatsumi also rarely talked nonsense with Leva. This guy was just a lackey of his death. Talking nonsense with him would make him lose his status. Big Brother values me because I have the confidence to defeat Dustless. Tatsumi's mind flashed with brilliance. This might be the fundamental reason. Are you kidding me? Leva sneered more unscrupulously when he heard the words. He stared at Tatsumi with an expression of looking at an idiot and said unceremoniously, "You are just a trash? I have fought with that guy, and I know the horror of Dustless." Recalling the process of fighting with Dustless, Leva's face showed a touch of fear. He stared at Tatsumi and said disdainfully, "I can defeat 10 Tatsumi, and Death can even defeat 10 of me. And Dustless can easily play tricks on his death. His combat power is 10 times higher than his death. You dare to dream of defeating Dustless. Are you a pig?" Chapter 16:30. Are you a pig? This sentence robbed Tatsumi a lot, and his body could not help but tremble. Even if he was not as good as Dustless, he did not need to ridicule him so ruthlessly. It hurt his self-esteem. "General Leva, what you said is too much." Beside Tatsumi, Bullet appeared without warning, and his indifferent eyes were full of annoyance. "Hey, Bullet, I know you're wandering around me." Leva smiled indifferently and shrugged helplessly. "Who let you value this incompetent kid so much? And your skill of hiding is excellent. As long as I deliberately ridicule him, you will definitely show up. After all, you're the kind of person who values friendship. I know you too well. You deserve to be my former boss. You really know me well." Bullet just faintly responded, and then glanced at Tatsumi. He saw his decadence and frustration. Seeing his face full of disappointment and loneliness, he did not know what to do. "Who asked Lewa to speak the truth? Let's perform the task first. Kill the 3 beastmen." Bullet was too lazy to entangle with Tatsumi's affairs. Everyone had their own fate. As the saying goes, the master can lead the way, but it depends on the person. He had done what he could do for Tatsumi. What happened next was Tatsumi's own business. At the same time, there was also a fierce battle in another direction. Boom, boom, boom. The dazzling lightning all hit Dustless's body. He was hit hard in an instant. His body immediately sunk, and then he could not bear the powerful force and burst open. Did it succeed? General Buddha stared anxiously. Just now, for a few minutes, he couldn't even catch Dustless's body. Now that he finally caught the real body and destroyed it, he was very excited and happy. Boom, boom, boom. Dustless's body finally burst open and turned into light all over the sky. If it was put on ordinary people, he would be dead. However, after seeing Dustless's abnormality, General Bude's old face suddenly collapsed. Looking at the golden photons all over the sky, he could not help but burst out. "Damn, what kind of Taigu is this bastard?" General Bude was extremely angry. Dustless was far more troublesome than he imagined. If the opponent was a powerful enemy, there would at least be a possibility of defeating the opponent. But if the opponent was air that you couldn't hit, could you win? I'm giving in to you, but not only are you not grateful, you're insulting me instead. TSK. Using scum to describe you is an insult to this noble word. Dustless, who had just repaired his body, teased in a sarcastic tone. "If you have the guts, fight me fair and square." General Budo clenched his fists and roared. He was particularly miserable because he couldn't hit Dustless's body at all. He was being played around like a clown. "If you dare to fight me head-on, I'll beat you up so badly that even your own mother won't recognize you." General Budo stared at Dustless confidently, hoping to go Dustless into throwing away his advantage. "Really? Then I will fulfill your wish." Dustless glanced at General Bude, then turned into a thick beam of light and flew out. Lightspeed kick. When he appeared again, he was in front of General Budo, followed by a dazzling beam of light, all of which exploded on General Budo's rough face. Boom, boom, boom. General Budo's body was swept away by a magnificent flash of light. Dustless kicked him dozens of meters away, smashing through several wooden rooms. If he didn't react in time, this kick would have been enough to kick General Budo into the sea and take a bath with sharks. How is this possible? Could it be that he was giving in to me just now? This kid is not the kind of person who respects the old and loves the young. General Budo's heart was in a perilous situation. He touched his stinging face and immediately grimaced in pain. He couldn't help but feel sad that he wanted to cry, but had no tears. General Budo could even feel that his face had been kicked askew. Just now, he was shamelessly boasting that he would beat Dustless to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Now, the result was the opposite. General Budo was 100% sure that if he returned to the imperial capital, the great emperor wouldn't recognize him. The person who was beaten to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him wasn't Dustless, but General Budo. Phew, phew, phew. At the same time, a flash of light suddenly appeared behind him. The cold voice made General Budo sweat profusely, and he turned his head stiffly like a robot. Bang, bang, bang. An iron fist came to his face. General Budo's face suddenly caved in. His nose was directly beaten into a bloody mess and even disappeared out of thin air. Bang, bang. General Budo was blown more than 10 meters away by Dustless's punch. He was lying on the deck half dead, and his faint breathing could still be heard faintly. He was so close to the gate of hell. What kind of monster is that guy? Bullet, who was fighting with Leva, was stunned. His eyes were staring at Dustless in horror. This guy was so horrible that he could cripple a general with one punch and one kick. Sure enough, it's almost the same as I predicted. The strength of this guy is at least 10 times more than Master's death. Leva also had a cold expression. This scene was too incredible. One punch and one kick to kill one of the strongest in the Empire. It was enough to dislocate people's jaws. Can I really surpass this kind of monster? Tatsumi couldn't bear the blow and took the initiative to cover his eyes. If he continued to watch this scene, he would have trouble sleeping and eating. Such a nightmare enemy could be called a godlike existence. So powerful. Akame's eyes were full of brilliance. She deeply admired Dustless's overwhelming strength. After all, it was a world where the strong were respected. A person who could kill a general in seconds was definitely more popular than the weak. Chapter 16:31. Damn it, no wonder that his death bowed to me. It turned out that all the reasons were for him. Hateful. I should have joined forces with this death to deal with this kid. Looking at the approaching Dustless, General Budo finally gritted his teeth and stood up. Oh, very strong. You can still stand up. Dustless's eyes flashed a ripple and immediately said, but it's a pity. Whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, Dustless's body immediately shone and the golden beam began to wander again. Hateful. Witnessing such a scene, Grand General Budo complained incessantly. But now that things had come to this, he had no choice but to bite the bullet. Dustless would never let him off, and Grand General Budo wouldn't let Dustless off either. In the end, it was the same. There was no possibility of reconciliation. Boom! The silver light echoed between heaven and earth. General Budo, who had been devastated, had to burst out the last strength to deal with it. He turned into a lightning storm and attacked. Whoosh! General Budo waved his arms with all his might. Light balls, about the size of a human head, shot out from his arms one after another, densely rolling towards Dustless. One after another, the number was endless, and each of them was extraordinary. Boom! Dustless did not stop and continued to walk leisurely. The silver energy ball exploded on his body, but in any case, Dustless did not suffer any harm, similar to the transparent people. Kakaka! The violent explosion caused the deck of the ship to collapse, and the whole ship had a tendency to tilt, but Grand General Budo still attacked Dustless with all his might. There was no sign of stopping, and he wanted to completely destroy it. Has the sun set? Suddenly, he turned his head and swept to the distant crimson sky. The fiery red sun had set over the mountain, and unknowingly, the darkness had quietly come. Let's stop here. Dustless gradually lost interest in continuing the entertainment, and his mind waned. Looking at the crazy General Budo, his body burst into golden light, and a flash swept in front of him. "Let me teach you how to use lightning. Right on thousand birds." The silver dazzling thunder roared out and went straight to General Budo's internal organs. Because the flash was too dazzling, looking at each other could make people dizzy. General Budo was no exception. Even if he was aware of Dustless's attack, he could only close his eyes helplessly. In particular, the thousands of thunder made him even more frightened. Poochie! The flash and thousands of birds were all extinguished, and the world was very quiet at this moment, but everyone's eyes were on General Budo. Victory and defeat has been decided. Staring at General Budo's pale face, Dustless was unusually calm. Following his line of sight, one could see that General Budo had a bloody hole in his chest. "Papa." Not only that, but inside General Budo's abdomen, there was also crackling lightning, burning his internal organs, mercilessly destroying all the organs of his body. Sensing the rapid loss of his life force, Grand General Budo closed his eyes in despair, as if he had already admitted defeat. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it. Looking at General Budo regretfully, since he knew this would happen, he shouldn't have been so arrogant. If he kept a low profile, this wouldn't have happened. All of this was General Budo asking for humiliation. Goodbye. Patting the dust off his body, Dustless was about to leave, but suddenly he found a thick arm grabbing him, powerful and extremely strong, and forcibly pulled back Dustless, who wanted to leave. Raising his head to look at the instigator, Dustless shockingly discovered that it was Grand General Budo. This old guy opened his eyes again and showed an extremely crazy and cunning expression. "Ha ha! You've been fooled." General Budo's unusually proud laughter resounded through the boundless night sky. He quickly took out a special needle and stabbed it into his neck without hesitation. An unknown liquid flowed down the pillow into General Budo's body. "You're too strong. Let me strengthen you first." A large number of blue veins appeared on his neck. General Budo looked at Dustless with a ferocious expression. At this moment, Dustless was like a little lamb, extremely weak in the eyes of General Budo. "Very surprised, right?" General Budo laughed sinisterly. "Very surprised indeed." Dustless heard this and fixed his eyes on General Budo, sighing, "I thought you were a person who disdained to play tricks, but I didn't expect that I was wrong." Dustless confessed to this without concealing anything. It could be considered that he had suffered a setback. After all, although he was powerful, it was also impossible to see through everyone's thoughts. "So what if you caught me? You think you can still turn the tables?" Looking at General Budo's destroyed organs, Dustless said with pity, "Now you're just relying on medicine. Of course I still have things to do. That is to take you down with me." General Budo roared, "Pa pa pa." At the same time, the extinguished Taigu once again emitted lightning. All rushed to Dustless's body. He suddenly looked like a lightning man. His whole body was emitting huge thunder and lightning. Although the thunder and lightning can't hurt you, there's still a fatal place. Looking at Dustless, who was swallowed by lightning, General Budo loosened his right arm and laughed with victory in his hand. "You should be weak now, have no strength to move, right? Thunder and lightning can paralyze you." "Poochie, Poochie." General Budo's voice just fell. Two lights flashed. Dustless waved the sword as if nothing happened. The sharp edge cut off General Budo's arms one after another. Boom! The bloody arms fell to the ground. General Budo collapsed, and his mind was blank. "You want to paralyze me with your half-baked lightning? Are you an idiot?" Chapter 1632. Hearing Dustless's ridicule, General Budo did not attack back this time. Perhaps he had accepted this cruel fact in his heart. Dustless was an existence that he looked up to. General Budo suddenly smiled stupidly. Even if his arms were cut off by Dustless, he did not feel the slightest pain. His heart was desperate and numb. Go to hell with me, General Budo said crazily. At the same time, his taiga broke out a destructive super thunder and lightning. Strangely, it did not attack Dustless, but gathered on General Budo's body. Boom, boom, boom. The void that was still quiet suddenly became violent. The lightning surged. The thick silver thunder dragon turned over in the clouds. The scene was amazing. It turns out that you want to drag me to hell with you? Dustless stared at the thunder and lightning that overflowed from General Budo's body, and he suddenly understood something. Boom, boom, boom. The violent thunder and lightning fell from the sky, the unparalleled destructive power. The autumn wind swept the fallen leaves, and the cruelly destroyed the sailing ship. Phew, phew, phew. Dustless's body flashed suddenly. He took the lead to rush to the front of Akame, grasped Akame's body tightly, and immediately threw her into the water without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The next second, the whole ship was attacked by lightning. It burned with a thick flame in an instant. The ship of hundreds of meters turned into a fire ship. Dustless, Akame, who poked her head out from the bottom of the water, was full of worry. At the same time, she was unwilling to feel frustrated. She secretly clenched her fists. After all, she was still too weak. Dustless saved her again. He turned himself into a thunder and electromagnetic field, attracting the thunder and lightning in the sky. Does Budo still have such a powerful trick? He is really cunning. Isdeath, who stood at the port, looked far away, looking at the burning ship and the thunder elemental power in the distant void. She vaguely guessed that the initiator was General Budo, turning oneself into a thunder and electromagnetic field, attracting the power hovering in the sky to execute heavenly punishment. This was one of the strongest moves of General Bud. At the same time, it was also the move he used to perish together with Dustless. Ah, what a pity! At this moment, the frivolous voice of a young man came from the flaming ship. Looking closely, it was the sloppy Dustless. He was dressed in bright clothes, his face was rosy, and his expression was joyful. He didn't look like he was about to receive divine punishment at all. Instead, he looked as excited as if he was going on a vacation. Poochie. Looking at the unscathed Dustless, General Budo vomited blood and fell to the ground. Looking at his unwilling expression, he was probably angered to death by Dustless. TSK, TSK. Now that this guy has been dealt with, it's Bullet's turn. He's a main dish this time. With a bloodthirsty smile on his face, Dustless strolled to the place where Bullet and Leva were fighting. His devilish smile made people shudder. He threw Scarlet Pupil out, not only to save her, but also to create a good environment to kill Bullet. As the best villain, not only did he have to trap the enemy, but he also had to scheme against his own people. Even his teammates were no exception. Anyone who defied Dustless's would definitely die. Damn it, that old man even wants to kill me. The place where Leva and Bullet were fighting had already been reduced to ruins. The surroundings were burning with a blazing sea of fire. Both Leva and Bullet were extremely miserable. Before the two of them started fighting, they were attacked by General Bullet, who summoned thunder and lightning. That terrifying heavenly punishment attack was too frightening. Even if the two of them didn't die, they were seriously injured by the lightning. Bullet's body was even emitting a burnt smell. Leva wasn't any better. Tatsumi, it's yours from now on. Handing the machete that summoned the ghost taunt armor to Tatsumi, Bullet showed a painful expression. The thunder and lightning attack did seriously injure him. Brother, you. Although Tatsumi was quite excited, looking at Bullet's painful expression, he still couldn't hold back the sadness in his heart. Idiot, I'm not dead yet. It's not too late to cry for me when I'm dead. Bullet laughed and scolded. You take Ghost Taunt back temporarily. I'll hold this guy back. No, brother, a puff. Bullet didn't give Tatsumi a chance to speak. He directly kicked Tatsumi out of the sea of fire. In the world of fire, only Bullet and Leva were left. It's great, Bullet, sacrificing yourself for others. Your style is really not like an assassin. Leva stood up and said, Do you want to die with me? Of course not. I will leave after killing you. Bullet shook his head. He didn't plan to die now. He let Tatsumi take away Ghost Taunt because Bullet didn't have extra strength to use it in his current state, so it was better to let Tatsumi take it away. Yo, Bullet! At this moment, a voice that surprised Bullet suddenly sounded. Looking at the source, it was Dustless who walked over with a smile. You're not dead? Bullet said in surprise. It was already a miracle that he was still alive after suffering such a terrifying attack, and Dustless was completely unscathed right now. Of course, Buddha, on the other hand, is deader than dead. Dustless walked to Bullet harmlessly, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Bullet, I have something to tell you. Is it important? Bullet frowned when he heard the words, and then asked, Just say it. You're so generous. Dustless smiled, and immediately a cold light flashed in his eyes. His right arm penetrated Bullet's heart like a blade. You have to hinder me from killing Tatsumi. Can you please die? Chapter 1633. This sudden scene not only shocked Bullet, but also Leva, the great enemy, was dumbfounded and at a loss. Aren't these two teammates colluding with each other? Isn't everyone in the night raid loving each other? How could there be such a good show of killing each other? How dare this guy? How dare he? How dare he? Bullet kept repeating this sentence, and his stunned eyes gave people the illusion that he was dreaming. Dustless didn't come to save him, but directly killed him. Poochie, Dustless's strength went deeper. Bullet's body was badly mutilated, and the tingling pain spread all over his body. Bullet's body was covered with cold sweat, and his face was suddenly as pale as blood. He clenched his fists tightly, and he had to loosen them. Bullet had no extra strength to continue fighting with Dustless. Looking around, Dustless tried to find the trace of Tatsumi, but he helplessly found that the kid had disappeared in advance, and he probably escaped again. That kid's luck is pretty good. He always has the foresight to slip away in advance. However, being able to get rid of you this time is also a pleasant surprise. Bullet, I thought you would also run away. Dustless teased with a playful tone. Looking at Bullet, who was in pain, the depths of his eyes were as cold as ice, without a trace of pity or sympathy. The road is his own choice. No one forced him, and he will pay the price if he goes wrong. Dustless, the boss will not let you go. Bullet's face darkened as he roared. He could still feel at ease if he had died in the hands of the enemy. After all, he had died in battle. However, he had been killed by his own people for no reason. How could this be? Bullet's heart was extremely depressed. I'm really sorry. No one knows about this. Pointing to Riva, Dustless said with a smile, Bullet and Riva, one of the three beasts, fell after the battle, and I, Uchiha Dustless, bravely saved him. In the end, although I didn't save Bullet, I helped you to avenge him and killed Riva. What do you think of this script? Were you moved to tears when you heard that? Puff. As his voice fell, both Riva and Bullet couldn't hold back, and the two of them were seriously injured by Supreme General Budo before, and as a result, they couldn't hold back their blood. You despicable, shameless villain. The two of them stared at Dustless angrily. This guy's ability to make up a story is superb. He pushed all the blame and responsibility to Riva and Bullet, and Dustless himself was the savior. This gorgeous script may make Nagenda reward Dustless, the culprit. Don't look at me with this kind of eyes that want to tear me into pieces. I said before, I didn't intend to kill you, but you had to collude with Tatsumi. If you want to blame, you can only blame your naivety and ignorance. Don't worry, Tatsumi will meet you soon. Poochie. Dustless increased his strength and instantly squeezed Bullet's heart. Ayo, 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 ayo. After letting out an extremely painful howl, Bullet's eyes dimmed as he fell to the ground. His face was filled with desolation and unwillingness. His eyes had completely darkened and were extremely empty and gloomy. Tatsumi will definitely avenge me. Bullet unconsciously muttered to himself. He was close to sleep, but in fact, he was full of hesitation. Compared with Dustless, Tatsumi was simply a slag. It was more appropriate to call him Slag Rice. Next, it's you. Glancing at the fallen bullet, Dustless's gaze then shifted to Leva. The latter immediately retreated a few steps in fear. This guy was really too evil. It was understandable that he was ruthless to the enemy, but he was also so cruel to his own people. Dustless's heresy refreshed Riva's understanding. Even Esteth trusted her own people very much, but this guy could kill his companions at will. His means were worse than Esteth's. Go to hell. However, it was useless to escape. Dustless flashed and rushed in front of him. A cold light left a shocking wound on Riva's body. Plop! Although Riva was unwilling, he also fell to the ground, and his vitality accelerated. In a trance, he had seen the Grim Reaper with a sickle coming to take his life. I'm really merciful, Dustless muttered to himself. His indifferent face didn't show the slightest bit of guilt or self-blame. He had once given Bullet a chance, but Bullet insisted on going against him and brought disgrace upon himself. Riva tried his best to open his eyes and stared at Dustless, who was close at hand. Finally, he whispered, "You crazy demon, this death will definitely defeat you." Demon? Dustless revealed a puzzled expression when he heard that. He pretended to be sorrowful and said, "I let you two good brothers die together. Furthermore, it's still going to hell hand in hand. You two should thank me. My behavior is no different from that of an angel." Puff! In the end, Leva couldn't bear the blow and choked with sobs for the rest of his life. Soon after, he was angered to death. If angels were as black-bellied and callous as Dustless, the entire human race might have been destroyed countless years ago. Boom, boom, boom. The fire continued to burn, and everyone on the ship panicked. They were like headless flies, but they were already at the end of their rope. Now that the entire ship was on fire, and they were in the middle of the ocean, there was only one outcome for these people: death. The mission is completed, we can retreat. Although Tatsumi's record is less, we have General Bude, which is barely good. Chapter 1634. Time flew by, and 3 days later, the news of Bullet's death spread throughout the night raid. Everyone was quite sad. After all, they'd spent a long time with Bullet. The result was exactly the same as Dustless's plan. Leva, one of the three beasts, took all the responsibility, and Dustless himself was the superhero of annihilating the enemy. Dustless put all the merits on his head shamelessly. However, this was not the most important thing. The key was that Boss Najenda and other members of the Night Raid were convinced by Dustless's answer, and they even specially gave him quite a generous reward. If Bullet in the underworld knew all this, he would be so angry that he would climb out of the coffin. Damn, no wonder I didn't find a set of ugly god armor, Ghost Taunt. It turned out that Tatsumi took it away, this damn kid. Every time he escapes, his luck is too good. At the base of the night raid, looking at Tatsumi, who was training hard outside the window, Dustless's complaints about him multiplied. This kid's luck was really too good. Now Tatsumi had put on Ghost Taunt and trained like Bullet, even crazier than Bullet. After all, Bullet's death was caused by his cowardice. Who? Boss Najina knocked on the table, then smoked leisurely, and then said softly, "Ghost Taunt is Bullet's relic," and, at the same time, Bullet took the initiative to give it to Tatsumi. I intend to respect Bullet's choice. The next user of Ghost Taunt, Tatsumi. I know, Bullet originally valued Tatsumi, and it's reasonable to give it to him. Dustless didn't refute when he heard the words. This was what he expected. The only thing worth complaining about was that Tatsumi and Bullet's relationship was too good. It seemed that he was the one who took advantage of Bullet every time. Cough, cough, cough. Everyone be quiet. I have another important emergency to announce. Najenda's expression suddenly became serious and serious. It's a good thing to kill General Bullet this time. It's an unexpected surprise. Dustless should record it. I agree. Akame was the first to stand up and nod in agreement. If it weren't for Dustless, she might have been killed by General Bude's exaggerated move. Therefore, Akame was grateful to Dustless. This dissolute fellow. Mine saw Akame's affectionate and grateful eyes and immediately felt a threat. She also looked at Dustless, but it was the kind of scorching and extremely unpleasant. Damn it, why is there such a huge gap between us? How many days has it been since this kid started his night raid? She actually won the attention of mine and Akame at the same time. I am the elder of a night raid. Why is my agenda like a stone? Even Leonette also treats Dustless differently, including Hill. Dustless once saved her life. Dustless also seems to trust Dustless very much. Damn it, this guy is an unprecedented crisis for me. Lubbock saw such a scene. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. He stared at Dustless with jealousy. If he didn't do well, his agenda will be taken by this kid first. I heard that his death recently set up a special force. The members are the same Taiga users as you. If I am right, they are all used against us. Najenda was cautious, and her light purple eyes were full of tension. She subconsciously touched the destroyed eyes and the mechanical arm. The fear that his death brought to her was unforgettable. Listen clearly, according to the recent gossip, this special police department is called Jaegers. Jaegers? An organization that specializes in hunting people. This name is really arrogant. Leonette stood up and snorted. She seemed to be very dissatisfied with this death as arrogance. Dustless did not speak. He sat aside calmly, and no one knew what he was thinking. The guy Celyu Ubiquitas was killed by me. I am afraid that one of the original members is missing now. In the original work, Celyu Ubiquitas of the Guards was also one of them, and she even killed Hill. But now, the development of the situation was forcefully rewritten by Dustless. This time, her luck wasn't very good. She was eliminated by Dustless in advance. On the contrary, Hill was still alive and well. All in all, everyone should be a little more careful recently. Try to avoid confronting Is death head-on. I know her temperament better, so we can consume her slowly. The boss Najenda's wise order, her bright eyes were quite far-sighted. Although this was a passive tactic, Is death was like a maggot to her, and the shadow in her heart could never be removed. Boss, Bullet has fallen. Do we need to add members? Hill, who was a natural airhead, stared at Bullet's former position and couldn't help but suggest, if there is one less person, the efficiency of our task will be greatly reduced, and it will affect Ken in the future. Hill is right. It's also right to find a new person to join. After all, Bullet's position needs to be replaced by others. Now Tatsumi has the set of armor. Haunted, with his ability, it is impossible to surpass Bullet in a short time. Hey, if Bullet could hold on for a while, I could save him. Wu Chan said guiltily in a self-blaming tone. You tried your best. Don't mind Dustless. Patting Dustless's shoulder, Najenda showed a regretful and disappointed expression. If Bullet's spirit is in heaven, he will thank you. Spirit? Bullshit. You can't have it. If there is, that kid must curse me to death. Dustless smiled, but he complained in his heart. Chapter 16:35. Dustless still remembered the eyes of Bullet, who died with grievances. It was better for the soul of that kind of person to dissipate. It was not a good thing to be remembered by a ghost all day long. During the time when I am away, Scarlet Pupil will temporarily act as the boss. After sorting out the package that had been prepared, Najenda was about to leave. Finally, she did not forget to ask, "Do you have any questions?" During this time, don't go out at will. Boss, don't worry, we are not children. Everyone has the consciousness of being an assassin. We will not avenge Bullet temporarily. Leonie leaned lazily on the chair with a pleasant expression. At the same time, she did not forget to glance out of the window, but she found that Tatsumi, who was still training, suddenly disappeared. Where is Tatsumi? After a few seconds of hesitation, Leonie's tone increased several times. Tatsumi? These words made everyone's face change greatly. Everyone looked at the place where Tatsumi and Bullet usually trained. The scene in front of them made everyone frown deeply. They didn't know when, but the place was empty. Tatsumi disappeared. Before the first wave subsides, another wave rises. Tatsumi is probably going to avenge Bullet. Dustless explained in a very positive tone. Dustless had previously pushed all the blame of Bullet's death to Leva of the Three Beasts. And who was the boss of the Three Beasts? After General Bullet was killed, there was only one strongest sadist general left in the Empire. It's death. I guess Tatsumi went a troublous death. Scarlet Pupil's cheeks also showed a rare displeasure. Although she was quite optimistic about Tatsumi, she couldn't help but complain at the moment. Night Raid was an assassin organization. Sometimes it was inevitable that members would be killed. The members must be calm, but Tatsumi was too willful. What he did was completely opposite to the assassin's philosophy. I guess that the kid would not be quiet. I originally planned to let you keep an eye on him. Najinda put down the package that she picked up again. She looked helpless and had a headache. Although she could understand Tatsumi's pain, as a professional assassin, she must not be controlled by her own emotions. Absolute rationality was necessary. That idiot Tatsumi. I'm afraid his death is waiting for him to take the bait. I heard that his death has recently organized a civic contest. At that time, Isdeath will personally participate. It is estimated that she will use herself as bait to lure the members of the Night Raid. If Tatsumi is caught, we can use his mouth to get the news of our base. Touching his chin, Dustless showed a gloating smile. With him in the night attack, it would be fine. No matter what, Tatsumi, the little boy, was going to be unlucky. If he was caught by Isdeath, he would be severely tortured. It would be best if Isdeath could kill Tatsumi, who was an eyesore. I suggest we change our base immediately. Dustless was bored and knocked on the table, making the sound of dong dong. He analyzed. Everyone knows the situation of his death. Tatsumi may be able to defeat her in the future, but now he is just sending himself to Isdeath. And Isdeath is the sadist general. She is good at torturing people. If Tatsumi is caught, who knows whether he can withstand the torture? It is necessary to change the base temporarily. Mine and Gil nodded after hearing the words. Well, let's listen to Dustless's plan and change the base temporarily. Boss Najinda continued. However, you guys go to the capital to investigate together. All members of the Night Raid were exposed. Remember to disguise yourselves. If Tatsumi has not implemented the revenge plan, it is best to save him. He is also a member of the Night Raid. We can't leave him alone. When she said this, Najinda did not have much confidence. After all, everyone knew the relationship between Bullet and Tatsumi. Tatsumi hated the culprit as death. Even so, but the corners of Wu Chen's mouth squirmed and he suddenly interrupted. What if Tatsumi doesn't listen? When he is stubborn, even 10 cows can't pull him back. What if the kid doesn't obey our orders? Dustless is right. I know Tatsumi's character. Lubbock also nodded. Everyone got along with each other day and night. Even if they didn't know each other's background, at least they still knew each other's character. This worry was not unreasonable. The relationship between Bullet and Tatsumi is extraordinary. Leonie sighed and followed. She suddenly felt that it was a mistake to pull the naive and optimistic Tatsumi into the Night Raid. If that's the case, Boss Najinda's eyes were cold and said, if that's the case, there's no way. We can only kill Tatsumi by ourselves. I hope he can understand our pain. We can't ruin the revolution because of him alone. Hee, I'm waiting for you to say that. Dustless's eyes were fierce, as if he was possessed by an evil spirit. The Revolutionary Army was not something that Dustless could control. The decaying empire was not a good thing, but there must be factions within the Revolutionary Army. As a result, there must be intrigue. Then the darkness began to sprout at the same time. Anyway, I can use infinite Tsukuyami to kill this world in the end. All human beings are my nourishment. Dustless smiled calmly. It was extremely terrifying, far more terrifying than the monsters of the Empire. Compared with Dustless, Minister Ernest was simply an angel. At the moment in the Imperial capital, as Dustless and others guessed, Tatsumi arrived on time. He also knew that his identity was exposed, so he deliberately disguised himself before sneaking into the imperial capital. Chapter 1636. At the moment, in a luxurious palace of the imperial capital, in a room with an elegant environment, Isteth looked at the members of the Jaeger's police force below with satisfaction. The only regret was that the guard named Celiu Ubiquitas had been killed by Dustless. "Captain, will someone really attack us in this citizens' contest?" Other members of the Jaegers questioned. This person had a handsome face and short blonde hair. His name was Lon. "I'm not sure. Anyway, it is boring to hold a battle to pass the time. There are several Taigu. It is the right to choose the right users." Isteth shrugged her shoulders indifferently. Night raids were all famous rats, and only God knew their specific movements. However, according to my estimation, the young man named Tatsumi is a loyal person. Once there is a chance, he will never let me go. Isteth played with her nails. Her tone was very lazy, but deep in her eyes, there was a bright and strange luster. At the same time, the other members of the special police force, the Hunters, also made their appearance. Bowles, Will, Dr. Fashion, and the rest were all there, as well as Scarlet Eye's sister, Black Pupil. The only one missing was Cyril Ubiquitas, who had been killed. Bud was too reckless. If that guy was not reckless and went to look for death to fight with Dustless, he and I may be able to defeat him together. After a while, Isteth sighed with melancholy. She also had no way to deal with Dustless. Now she could only take one step at a time. The Emperor had ordered her to arrest Dustless again and again, but Isteth did not have the ability. Even Master Isteth is not his opponent. Kirome's natural expression was stunned. "I have fought with him before, and the result. In short, I lost completely." Staring at Black Pupil angrily, Isteth was very depressed. You can't be so direct, even if you want to expose the scars. Speaking of Wuchen, the scene of being washed by Wuchen automatically popped up in her mind, and she was extremely sad to put a collar on herself. The streets that were crowded at ordinary times were deserted at the moment. It was all thanks to Isteth. She held a citizens' contest, which attracted a large number of civilians to watch. Isteth, the strongest sadist general, was still very popular. The secret night raid base in the imperial capital. I didn't expect there to be such a place. In the secret room, Dustless strolled around with great interest. The night raid logo was clearly hung on the wall, and it was very conspicuous. Leona sat on the sofa and drank beer painfully. She had forgotten about Tatsumi's mission. As for Lubbock, he observed the situation outside through the window. "Where are Chi Tong and the others?" Looking around, Dustless asked out of boredom. This mission was of great importance. Not only the three of them participated, but even Akame, Mine, and Hill also participated. They're in charge of investigating. Leona said in an unusually lazy tone. As soon as her voice fell, Lubbock's voice sounded. Chi Tong and the others seemed to have returned. How did they gather information so quickly? There won't be any problems. Gazing far away, Chi Tong and the others were all wearing black robes. It cannot be helped. Thanks to Dustless, now all the members of the night raid were almost exposed. After all, they often fought with the troops of the imperial capital. It was inevitable to be exposed. They should have found some useful information. Dustless bowed his head and said to himself. From Chi Tong's slightly worried face, he could vaguely see some clues. It must be that Tatsumi had a big problem. It is estimated that Tatsumi signed up for the citizens' contest. After a while, Dustless's eyes flashed a ray of light. The final winner can get the reward of his death and even test some Taigu. This is a good opportunity to get close to his death. If Tatsumi really wants to assassinate his death, then this is the best opportunity. The analysis is reasonable. After thinking carefully, Leona nodded and sighed. Tatsumi is in a hurry to die. His death has countless enemies. She can still be alive, which explains everything. Who knows? Maybe God will give her face and the assassination will succeed. Wu Chun said with a faint smile. At the same time, He looked at the exit of the machine room. Chi-Tong and the others had already appeared in his eyes. Tatsumi participated in the citizens' contest. Sure enough, as Dustless guessed, the news revealed by Chi-Tong was the same as what Dustless predicted. This guy's head is really smart. Leona glanced at Dustless incredibly and immediately frowned. There is news that his death will also observe. Tatsumi's identity is also exposed. If he is caught by his death, our night raid will be completely exposed. That's very simple. Kill Tatsumi together. Dustless's extremely evil suggestion was surging between his eyebrows. If Tatsumi is really caught, in order to prevent him from leaking the news of our organization, then I will kill him. Mine raised the Taigu pumpkin and was full of confidence. This world is really mysterious. Dustless saw this and smiled without a trace. Originally, in the original work, the relationship between Tatsumi and Mine developed to the later stage. They were lovers who were envied by others. Now, it was good. He instigated them to become strangers. Now, Mine wanted to kill Tatsumi. The development of the situation was so wonderful. Chapter 16:37. Dustless stared at the impassioned Mine. This guy obviously didn't say it casually. There was a touch of freedom and determination on her cheeks. If Tatsumi was caught and betrayed the night raid, he would be a real traitor. Let's disguise ourselves a little and sneak into the venue. Let's see what Tatsumi is going to do. Looking up at the distant sky in boredom, Dustless was actually full of expectations and curiosity about what Tatsumi would do. At this moment, the special venue for the citizens' martial arts competition was crowded with people. It was difficult to find a suitable place to stand. Tatsumi really knows how to make trouble for people. Also, how can I snipe Tatsumi in such a place? I can't even see the target clearly. Mine, who teamed up with Dustless, complained as she walked. Because she was small and short, she could hardly see the situation outside in the crowd. You are more troublesome than Tatsumi. Dustless suddenly hugged Mine, grabbed her right shoulder and right leg, and put Mine on his shoulder to sit. What do you want to do? Molest. Mine was shocked by Dustless's sudden move. She recovered and scolded. It turns out that you are a pervert. You are so troublesome. I am kind enough to find an open field for you, but you blame me. In this case, you can come down. Grabbing Mine's shoulder, Dustless was about to put her down, but this guy was unhappy again. Do you think you can put me down just because you said so? Do you have any respect for me? Don't move. The view here is the best. If Tatsumi dares to appear, I promise that I can kill him with one shot. Mine slapped Dustless's hand away rudely and groaned. Although you are lazy, you are very reliable at the critical moment. I will depend on you. Depend on me? Hearing the words, Wu Chan glanced at Mine, who blushed in surprise. This sentence represented a lot of meanings. He immediately joked, You don't like me, do you? Impossible. A panic flashed in Mine's eyes. She quickly denied it and said proudly, I fell in love with you when all the men in the world died. I guess you've really fallen for me. Wu Chun continued to tease. His goal was to kill all the humans and absorb their life force to reach the level of perfection. The whole world was about to be destroyed. Naturally, Dustless was the only man left. Speaking of which, you'll be easily discovered if you're so conspicuous. Mine sat on Dustless's head. Although she was disguised, her position was too conspicuous. It was difficult not to notice her. What's the matter? Mine curled her lips and asked, with an expression of disdain, What's more, even if the sky falls, you will be there to support it. It's not a big deal. You've changed from the past. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Since he joined the night raid, the style of the members of the night raid was completely different from before. Before the super fighting power of Dustless, the night raid attacked others at night. Now with the addition of Dustless, almost all of them fought with the enemy head-on. Now let's welcome the last group of contestants. The host, Will, took the microphone and announced loudly that the game had entered the end. The last two contestants stepped onto the stage under everyone's expectant gazes. One of them was tall and sturdy, like a magical beast. The other one wore a mask on his head, and his entire body was airtight. Judging from his physique, he was a teenager. Mind, pay attention to that guy. Pointing to the teenager wearing a mask, Dustless said coldly, "That guy seems to be Tatsumi. Why are you so sure?" Mine asked in a low voice. She tried to lower her voice, but she was still shocked. Dustless just took a few glances at him. People who have been killed by me, I naturally won't remember him. But people who have grudges with me, even if he disguised himself, even if he has undergone plastic surgery, he can't escape from my eyes. What's more, what kind of person do you think will wear a mask? Dustless asked calmly. What kind of person will wear a mask? Mine was silent for a few seconds and replied, people who have done something wrong will be ashamed. Yes, it is because they have done something wrong that they will be afraid. Tatsumi, like us, is a criminal wanted by the Empire. If he wants to participate in the game, he must change his appearance. So I'm sure that this person is him, and his body outline is very similar to Tatsumi. Dustless glanced at Tatsumi. Then his right eye suddenly changed. The black eye instantly turned into a blue and white eye. Tensegan. His vision became extremely clear. The scene 10 kilometers away could be seen, not to mention Tatsumi, who was close at hand. Sure enough, it's this kid. After careful observation for more than 10 seconds, Dustless affirmed. Phew. However, as soon as Dustless's voice fell, mine shot out a ray of light. Boom, boom, boom. The violent explosion was not earth-shattering, but at least it scared everyone, and Dustless was the same, looking at mine stupidly. Is your head rusty? Dustless, who came back to his senses, asked loudly. You can only blame Tatsumi. You want to assassinate his death? If it's that simple, the Empire would have been destroyed. We can notice Tatsumi's disguise. Isdeath will naturally notice it too. If Tatsumi is caught, Isdeath will definitely torture Tatsumi severely. If he can't bear the torture, he will inevitably confess everything. It's best for me to take the opportunity to kill him now. Mine didn't stop. Instead, she fired a few more shots. Although it's a bit far-fetched, there is some truth in it. Touching his nose, Dustless found that he was convinced by mine. At the same time, Dustless also found that a large number of soldiers flocked to him and mine, including the members of Jaegers. Chapter 1638. Boom, boom, boom. All this happened so suddenly that everyone was caught off guard. Looking at the direction where mine was standing, they didn't expect that she would suddenly attack without saying anything. The killers of the night attack. They're looking down on people more and more. Isdeath stared at the burning fireball in the stadium, and she was silent for a while. Then she said coldly, now the rats are fat, and they dare to compete with human beings. They are really arrogant. Jaegers, go out. Phew. As Isdeath's voice fell, all the special police, Jaegers, were dispatched. Mine and Dustless were the first to be exposed, and they were also the first to be treated kindly by Jaegers. Ah, are you the Dustless that Isdeath said? On the surface, you look good, but this is only the surface. A strange voice came. Dustless rushed to the source of the sound, and a figure with glasses invaded his pupils. Dr. Vogue? Seeing the identity of the person, Dustless just glanced at him as if nothing had happened, and said to himself in boredom, I am looked down upon. Does Isdeath think that you can deal with me? You won't be arrogant later. Dr. Vogue's face flashed a touch of anger, and he was irritated by Dustless's contemptuous tone. That casual appearance was not like talking to human beings at all, and the target was like an insect that was not worth mentioning. Go! With a wave of his hand, the soldiers who surrounded Dustless and mine swarmed over. Obviously, they were all controlled by Dr. Vogue, and they were all transformed people. You're just ants. His calm eyes passed over their bodies. Dustless hugged the sky with his hands, and immediately the unstoppable wave that was visible to the naked eye broke out in an instant. Shinra Tensei. Boom, boom, boom. The huge stadium was hit hard. Even if Dustless deliberately lowered the power, it was attacked by the repulsive force. Half of the area disappeared, and a shocking super deep pit appeared on the ground. It was like being hit by a meteorite. Gulp! Seeing such a miraculous scene, Dr. Vogue's entire body went numb. He looked at the ghastly wound on the ground and thought about his arrogant words. He regretted it. I haven't written my will yet, and I still have a bunch of human experiments to do. Keep going. Dr. Fashionista waved his hand again, and the remaining modified soldiers swarmed out again. But this time, Dr. Vogue learned to be smart. The target of the attack was mine, who was relatively weak. Compared to Dustless, she was easier to deal with. Damn it, I've been underestimated. Mine felt angry when she saw this. She didn't expect that she was looked down upon, and Dr. Fashion obviously regarded her as a soft persimmon. Boom, boom, boom. Mine held the taigu in her hand, and a lot of lights were shot out. She immediately killed a group of miscellaneous soldiers. However, there was a saying that 2 fists were no match for 4 feet. After a stalemate for a while, mine was still surrounded, and she was very embarrassed. Hee, it's over. Dr. Fashionista laughed maniacally. Then he snapped his fingers and said loudly, "Now, I'll show you my highest fashion." Snap! After the sound of snapping fingers fell, the miscellaneous soldiers who were still far away from mine suddenly exploded. Boom! Although mine defended in time to avoid the ending of being buried together with the explosion, the impact of the explosion still sent her flying mercilessly. This madman, looking at the flame of the explosion in shock, mine pinched her fists and looked at the miscellaneous soldiers who were approaching. There were more than a dozen of them, and she suddenly felt miserable. These minions had been transformed into human bombs. Taking a deep breath, mine tried to stabilize herself, but her heart was still beating faster. She had seen the god of death in a trance. Disappear. Glancing at mine, who was desperate, Dr. Fashionista snapped his fingers again. Boom, boom, boom. More than a dozen human bombs all exploded and immediately set off an earth-shattering sound. The violent movement could be felt hundreds of meters away. So mine, who was only a few meters away from the human bombs, naturally could not be spared. Hey, it's a pity. I wanted to discuss life with Dustless in detail and let him become a member of my Fashionista army. Dr. Fashionista said to himself, looking at the rolling fire. He was sure that even his death would die. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At the moment of turning around, a ray of sacred golden light fell from the sky, accompanied by a voice that ignored all living things. This is Dr. Fashionista was stunned, and his eyes stared in horror. At the place where the sound came from, a golden giant was clearly visible, and a deadly oppression instantly filled the world. A monster composed of special energy appeared in his eyes. It looked ferocious, holding a golden sword of light, despising everything. How do you feel? Patting mine, who was helpless, Dustless asked with a smile. I said before, I am responsible for protecting the sniper, right? Mine's eyes flashed with gratitude. Dustless seemed to have saved her several times, but mine, who was arrogant, immediately turned her head. You are doing a good job as a newcomer, a bit like a killer. This guy's really proud. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He gave mine a supercilious look and immediately controlled the golden mature Kinsusinu to shoot the deadly light. For a human being, it's good that you could do this. Go to hell in peace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the voice fell, the mature Kinsusinu's sword suddenly fell down, and an unparalleled chop broke out. Poochie. The huge golden edge annihilated everything. Even the air was cut off by it, and the space was distorted. Chapter 1639. Gulp. Dr. Vogue was stunned and stared at the roaring light. His heart was full of despair and dead silence. He regretted it for a moment. When his death proposed to deal with Wu Chun personally, he insisted on a one-on-one fight with Wu Chun. Now, he suddenly had a feeling of crying without tears, especially when he still had a big move that had not been used yet. Staring at the edge that wanted to cut off the world, Dr. Fashion's heart was cold. Whoosh! Just when Dr. Fashion thought that he was about to die, the destructive light suddenly turned a corner and swept in other directions. Boom! No matter how big the building was, no matter how prosperous the street was, it was annihilated by this invincible blade. Everywhere it went, it was a mess, and he was in despair. What's going on? Dr. Fashion was dumbfounded. He touched his limbs that were still intact, and immediately slapped himself inexplicably. It hurts! Dr. Fashion suddenly grimaced in pain, and immediately said excitedly, "Is it that Dustless still can't control this move? God is so kind that he gave me a chance to turn the tables again." You. On the other side, Mine stared at Dustless strangely, staring at his calm face, and always felt a little strange. Instead of saying that God gave Dr. Fashion face, Mine felt that Dustless was taking the initiative to let him win. "I want you to die first." Glancing at Dustless fiercely, Dr. Fashion did not hesitate to insert a needle into his neck, and then injected all the mysterious liquid. Ow, ow, ow. Crazy and happy laughter came out from Dr. Fashion's mouth, and then his body suddenly became bigger. With himself as the core, a behemoth was exposed to the air. "You turned yourself into a dangerous species?" Aware of the violent breath of Dr. Fashion, Mine's face changed slightly, and she looked at Dustless with a little worry. The height of tens of meters was a bit exaggerated. Not to mention the violent, dangerous species. Even a worm of tens of meters high could break mountains and rivers when it moved. Looking at Dustless, his face did not change, and his deep eyes were as silent as the Dead Sea that could never be seen through. "I gave you a chance to live, and you just showed me this kind of naive thing?" A slight ripple splashed in the void. A short sentence was very light, but it came into everyone's ears. "You." Dr. Fashion's face showed anger. He felt that his dignity was trampled on. Looking down at Dustless, because he became tens of meters in an instant, Dustless's figure became a small black dot, as small as a thumb. "Go to hell." With a crazy roar, Dr. Fashionista controlled the giant dangerous species to come crushing over. "It's over." Raising his eyelids slightly, Wu Chun stared at the huge body. The silent Ryatsu in his body burst out. The dangerous species that were not terrible instantly withered and dismembered, turning into a large piece of black stone falling from the sky. The 90 Black Coffin of Breaking Tao. It was just a simple sentence, but it made Dr. Vogue feel a deadly pressure. He looked up at the sky, and a sharp black luster whistled towards him. "Poochie, Poochie, Poochie." In just a few seconds, the dangerous species that Dr. Fashion trusted was cut into pieces, and his flesh and blood flew all over the sky. He himself also ended up like this, being cut into pieces in the other direction. Tatsumi suffered from his death as personal destruction. "Kid, is that all you have? You want to avenge others with this level?" I'm laughing my head off. Looking at the miserable Tatsumi in front of her, Isdeath was indifferent and even disappointed. She sincerely hoped that Tatsumi would be as terrible as Dustless, bringing her fatal oppression. But the result was disappointing. Tatsumi was too ordinary. Although he was somewhat amazing and haunted, the gap between him and Bullet was still too big. "Did you kill my brother?" Tatsumi, who was beaten to the ground, asked angrily. His eyes were red, and he was as crazy as a dying beast. "So what if I did? So what if I didn't? I have killed too many people, and it's hard for me to remember the appearance of the people I have killed." Isdeath replied casually. Unexpectedly, this sentence suddenly angered Tatsumi. "Go to hell." Tatsumi heard the words and stood up again stubbornly. He held a long spear and stabbed Isdeath's face fiercely, trying to kill her with one blow. "Compared with Dustless, you are too weak. Every move of his can give me a huge oppression. Why is the gap so big when we are in the same organization?" "Phew." Isdeath sighed with boredom. She waved her hand gently, and countless ice blades came out. "So many. Seeing this, Tatsumi's pupils shrank. He waved his weapon to resist at the first time. Although he broke a lot of ice, he was seriously injured because of the large number. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. There were many scars all over his body. Tatsumi's skin and flesh were broken. In the end, he couldn't bear the blow and fainted. Is he dead? Noticing that Tatsumi had no breath, his death frowned slightly. She wanted to torture Tatsumi and ask for useful information. As a member of the night raid, he must know a lot of useful information. Roland, throw this boy's body to the dogs. Remember to throw it far away. It's better to throw it out of the capital. Glancing at the blond man beside her, Esteth ordered very coldly. Just use him to tell the members of the night raid that this is the future. Chapter 1640. Captain, are you sure you want to do this? Lon didn't rush to start, but asked Esteth strangely. He stared at Tatsumi's body for a long time. He was keenly aware that something was wrong. He didn't believe that Esteth didn't see the clues. The most powerful sadist general killed people, and she should know the difference between the dead and the living. So that's the case? Is that the reason? This strongest sadist general is indeed not an ordinary person. She is powerful and unparalleled in intelligence. After a long silence, Lan's eyes lit up, and he vaguely understood Esteth's intention. That group of abominable night raid should end up like this. Throw them to the dogs. Esteth responded without emotion, then glanced at Tatsumi's body a few times, and then left without any reluctance. Leave this matter to me. Lon left with Tatsumi's body. 2 white wings swept out behind him, and then he rose into the air. Esteth was the boss of Jaegers, and her orders must be carried out. Damn, is Tatsumi dead? The members of the night raid saw Lon leaving with Tatsumi, and they all showed a complicated expression. Anyway, they were also companions, and they felt sad. They saw that Tatsumi's body was full of bloody scars, and his expression was stiff, and he couldn't be more dead. Something is wrong. Although he was seriously injured, he is still safe and sound, and his heart is still beating. It is reasonable to say that Tatsumi should not be dead. Esteth should be able to see this kind of thing. Staring at Tatsumi through the special vision of Rinnegan, Lan's every move could not escape the eyes of Dustless. This little trick could deceive others, but it was too difficult to deceive Dustless, who had Rinnegan. In particular, Tensigan could even capture Tatsumi's beating heart. Does it mean Esteth did it on purpose? His face changed slightly, and after thinking for a long time, Dustless's face showed an imperceptible smile, and he also understood her intention. In the evening, in the palace of the imperial capital, after abandoning Tatsumi, the members of Jaegers gathered again. The only difference was the lack of Dr. Fashion. Is Fashion dead? I have long advised him not to provoke Dustless, and the result is the same as I expected. Esteth's tone was full of melancholy. Not to mention Dr. Fashion. Even she was not enough in the past. The members of the Jaegers were collectively silent for a few minutes. It could be considered as a moment of silence for the deceased Dr. Fashion. Captain, after a while, Lon looked at Esteth and saw that she was calm. She couldn't help but ask about her doubts during the day. Tatsumi should not be dead. I can feel his body temperature. Although those wounds are serious, they deliberately avoid the vital parts. Did you do it deliberately? Oh, can you tell? Esteth shook the goblet in her hand, and the blood-red liquid swayed. Esteth said her purpose. You're right, Lon, but I deliberately let Tatsumi go. Captain, what's your plan? After being stunned for a moment, all the members asked expectantly. Esteth obviously did it on purpose, which also showed that she had other plans. The boy was seriously injured by me. If he wants to live, he can only return to the night raid. With a raging smile, Esteth held her chin with her left hand and said meaningfully, I have sent someone to follow the boy. It's only a matter of time before we find the base of the night raid. Captain deliberately let Tatsumi go. Are you planning to break the base of the night raid? Kiron blinked and asked, and also understood the real plan of his death. They couldn't find the base of the night raid before. It would be best if Tatsumi took the initiative to lead the way. In this way, we can launch a sneak attack at night. Bowles' eyes were bright, and he agreed with his Death's plan. In the past, they used to launch sneak attacks on the Jaegers at night. This time, it was the Jaegers' turn to launch a sneak attack at night. Yes, for a long time we have been in the light, and the night raid has been in the dark. The initiative of the battlefield is in their hands. The Jaegers are too passive. This time, it must be our turn to take the initiative. We can turn the disadvantages into advantages, especially when the people of the night raid sneak attack us. This time, it's our turn to launch a sneak attack on the dustless people. Isteth's analysis was very comprehensive, and this was her plan. Since the two sides couldn't defeat the night raid in a head-on confrontation, they could only apply what they learned. They used the strategy before the night raid, sneak attack. The value of Tatsumi is limited. We must maximize the use of this boy so that we won't let down the dead fashion. Well, the task of monitoring Tatsumi is handed over to you. The Jaegers lost a member in the first battle, and Isteth was somewhat frustrated. At night, Tatsumi, who was abandoned in the wilderness, opened his eyes again and looked at the dark sky. The beautiful starlight was in his eyes. Tatsumi's face flashed a touch of nostalgia. It's good to be alive. After experiencing a crisis of death, Tatsumi felt the preciousness of life. I didn't expect that my ability to pretend to be dead could deceive his death. Tatsumi was complacent. At that time, he realized the gap between him and his death. Tatsumi knew that there was no hope for the reward. As a result, he pretended to be dead. He thought that he would be seen through by his death. Unexpectedly, it was unexpectedly smooth. It hurts. After moving his body a little, the tingling suddenly spread all over his body. Tatsumi grimaced in pain, but he could only drag his tired body to find the base of the night raid again. A pair of green eyes had been staring at Tatsumi's movements. When Tatsumi left, it also followed. Chapter 1641. The base of the night raid. It was late at night, but everyone did not sleep. After the battle with the Hunter Special Police, everyone had many knots in their hearts that had not been untied, and they were quite nervous. However, at the moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Tatsumi's head. You can escape from the hands of his death. Looking at the bloody Tatsumi, Lubbock took the lead to question, and he was deeply puzzled that Tatsumi came back alive. After all, the opponent was his death. Although the other members of the night raid did not speak, they were puzzled. They even prepared for Tatsumi's funeral. Now, if this guy suddenly came back alive, they were really shocked. "What's with your eyes? Are you sad that I didn't die?" Tatsumi was out of breath when he saw the changes in everyone's expression. He was secretly angry. This group of heartless guys saw that he came back alive, and they all showed a disappointed expression. It seemed that they were very upset that he didn't die. If you want to blame yourself. You want to challenge his death. This is like hitting a stone with an egg. Even if you really die, it's the result of your own actions. I will never be sad. Mine turned her head proudly and didn't even look at Tatsumi. You. Tatsumi was speechless, and he immediately quibbled with a red face. I was testing the strength of his death to prepare for everyone to counterattack the capital in the future. You saw the strength of his death during the day. You have to thank me. When did this kid become so shameless? Dustless looked at Tatsumi with a funny look and ridiculed. Are you sure you are testing his death? Aren't you being beaten by his death as a sandbag? You guys stop before it's too much. Now show the expression of welcoming the return of the hero. Also, please immediately put away this expression of encountering a jinx. Immediately. Immediately. Tatsumi's internal organs jumped fiercely. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. For Dustless and other shameful behavior, he was also helpless. After all, they were the mouths of others. By the way, it's too strange. Isteth is the strongest general. She has experienced countless battles. She's a strong person who climbed out of the pile of dead people. How could such a person not be able to differentiate between the living and the dead? Akame expressed the doubts in her heart and glanced at Tatsumi's embarrassed face. She didn't want to hurt everyone's harmony, so she quickly explained, I just expressed the doubts in my heart. There is no other meaning. That's simple. Dustless sat on the sofa, looked at the night sky lazily, and said casually, Isteth deliberately let Tatsumi come back. That guy has been looking for the base of the night attack. Tatsumi is a suitable leader. Impossible. Tatsumi immediately denied and said loudly, You think too highly of Isteth. She is not as terrible as you think. After all, she is just a woman. Although she is stronger than me now, give me a year or two, I can definitely surpass her. Just a woman? Sometimes, women are more troublesome than men. Dustless scoffed at Tatsumi's words. This guy hadn't figured out why he could come back. Maybe he thought it was because he was too smart. Tatsumi, although I don't want to hurt you, it's strange that you can come back alive. My opinion is the same as Dustless. I think his death deliberately let you go. That woman is terrible. Leonie frowned. She was once responsible for monitoring his death and had the naive idea of assassinating his death, but the beast's instinctive perception of danger made her stop and give up the unrealistic plan. Even Sister Leonie doesn't think highly of me. Tatsumi's heart was cold. He looked around at the members of the night attack and found that unconsciously he had become the target of public criticism. Everyone was not interested in him. But Tatsumi's mouth squirmed, and when he was about to explain, the earth-shattering sound of the cannon resounded through the dark night sky. Boom, boom, boom. The quiet night was like a sudden earthquake. The earth shook, the mountains were torn apart, a large number of mountain fragments peeled off, and even the base of the night attack was hit hard. This wave of roar fell, and the base turned into nothingness in an instant. Not good. All the enchantments I said have been touched. It is estimated that everyone has been surrounded, and there are a lot of people who have admitted defeat. There are thousands of people. Lubbock broke into a cold sweat. There were too many people, and obviously they were prepared before. All the members of the night attack were depressed when they heard the words. They looked at the petrified Tatsumi at the same time. Their resentful eyes were obviously saying that he was indeed a jinx. Cough, cough, cough. Everyone should join forces to fight against the enemy. At this point, Tatsumi also knew that he had made a big trouble. He quickly encouraged them in an impassioned tone. 1. Don't give up easily. Concentrate all your strength to break through in one place. You can definitely escape. Right, Dustless? Tatsumi glanced at Dustless and decisively kicked the ball to him. Break through? Why do we have to break through? His expression did not change as he looked down at the approaching figures in the distance. It was a large black mass, and all of them were the Empire's troops. Since they are here, just annihilate them all. Tilting his head, Dustless said as if nothing had happened. His light tone made people feel speechless. It gave people the feeling that it was as simple as eating and drinking water. Annihilate them all? Is there something wrong with my ears? Leonette rolled her eyes at Dustless and complained, You have to understand that those are the elite soldiers under his death, not the decadent Empire soldiers. Although they are all from the same country, their combat power is very different. It doesn't matter. Dustless heard the words and waved his hand. He smiled and said, In fact, I found out that his death deliberately let Tatsumi come back, and I've already thought about how to deal with that guy. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.